have entered the PM Entertainment Podcast.
Hello, welcome, and yes, your ears are not deceiving you. We are back, baby. Yes, it's an all-new episode of the PM Entertainment Podcast, the show that rarely wears a shirt, prefers a leather waistcoat or vest, sets random doughy dudes on people when they're just trying to get a vending machine Dr. Pepper, often takes dramatic shame walks through the streets of downtown Vegas before finding an empty fight ring where we can relive our former losses, fall to our knees, and cry out like only a truly powerful man who has lost everything can do. And will do just about anything to avoid getting repeatedly headbutted in the man parts in front of hundreds of people. In other words, we love a good neon-drenched Las Vegas set fight film starring Michael Worth, Lorenzo Lamas, and Kathleen Kinmont. You know, like Final Impact. That's right, we're back among the world of Rick Pepin cinematography and Joseph Mehy direction, the two action icons who would entertain you all weekend in the 90s with their relentless and phenomenal releases of pure video ecstasy that brings smiles and gleeful hand-rubbing whenever you put the VHS in the player and were confronted with those two blue, beautiful letters of PM Entertainment. I'm your host, John Cross, and don't forget, if you like the show, please remember to rate and review us on any of the podcasting platforms you use, share our Facebook and Instagram posts, like, comment, and you can contact us via our email, pmentpod@gmail.com. That's pmentpod@gmail.com, or call us and leave a voicemail at 347-669-0053. We are waiting to hear from you. Okay, as I said earlier, we'll be discussing Final Impact from 1992, which is written and co-directed by Steven Smoke, whose only IMDb credits are all PM Entertainment films, the lucky man. He also wrote Living to Die, Street Crimes, and Magic Kid, and directed Street Crimes. He can also be seen in Repo Jake as guitar player. Back in the guest seats this week, it is those two brothers of beat-em-up movies, the kings of comeuppance reviews, that long-running blog and podcast that strives to find the very last action film in existence that they haven't reviewed yet. It's Brett and Ty Barger. Gentlemen, hello. But wonderful to have you two guys back on the show. We were just talking before we went live that Comeuppance Reviews, your blog, first of all, I mean, it has got to be one of the few blogs on Blogger, like, still going, right? From back.
Yeah. I mean, it's practically angel fire at this point.
Yeah, right.
But yes,
Space Jam website is, right?
We're right next to the Space Jam website in terms of longevity. Yeah, I guess. But yeah, was it around 1,400 reviews? I mean, you wouldn't think there'd be that many action movies that exist, but there are, and we talked about most of them. But as Ty has said, we're always looking for a new one because we've seen so many at this point.
Yeah.
Which is why our output has slowed down. But we're, in case people are wondering, we are still active. It's just we're not posting one a week like we used to.
What maybe our next one, Brad? It's that guy, it's like a shirtless guy.
Yeah, there's a shirtless guy. The cover actually looks a lot like the cover of the Final Impact.
Nice.
Let me see if I could find the name.
I always like when there's a shirtless guy.
Don't we all? But
Yeah.
I'm just Relentless Justice. Is that?
Oh,
it?
maybe I was.
Relentless Justice.
Yeah, no,
Oh my God!
Darkness.
This justice that we're experiencing is relentless.
Yeah,
It really is.
Stop.
But yeah, and so it could be that, or it also could be a movie called Streets of Darkness, which
Maybe
I think that's
it.
what it is.
Yeah.
So that's those will probably be the next two. Yeah, and if you look up the cover of Streets of Darkness, you'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Okay.
But so Relentless Justice is a movie you'll also be doing.
Yes,
Okay.
no
Fantastic.
question.
Yes, there's also a title that we'll do on.
It might take some time, but we will eventually get to experience some justice.
I love it. Is there any plan? I mean, obviously, hopefully Google would let you know if they were ever going to shut down the Blogger program, but is there a plan to export these and publish a giant coffee table tome of comeuppance reviews.
That's a good
I would
idea.
love to do that. I would so love to do that. That, as someone who's a fan of physical books, I mean, I would love to do that. I think there was a time when I was actually more seriously thinking about doing that. But then this book came out, which Ty, you bought. It's a hardcover book with a lot of action content in it, and it was very similar.
Yes.
And I don't remember the name of that book or who wrote it, but someone wrote a similar book, but that actually has interviews with like Daniel Bernhardt and others.
All of our favorite people.
So I thought, well, this is maybe the timing's not right, but yes, that would be the dream. Yes.
Yeah, I would hit up. I don't know if you guys know directly, but he knows Mo, so we could always do introductions. But my buddy Tim Gross out in Pittsburgh, he's been writing the Gross movie reviews for years and years and years. And I think he used, is it lulu.com? Something like that to make his books, where he basically took his blog. I don't know if it's on Blogger. His might be on Blogger as well, actually. You guys might be in competition with him, actually, because he's been going years as well. But his blog, he publishes, whatever it is, 400 reviews as a big book. And then he'll go on and do the next one. So he has like multiple books. And they have colorful front covers and designs however you want, but then inside it's just like a self-published thing,
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think the guys that did the Exploding Hut book did that. I have that book. I think it's basically self-published, or Lulu or whatever that company is.
Yeah, Lulu. Yeah, I think that's what,
they did that, and it's all about the Italian action movies, and the rating system is out of how many exploding huts, and I thought that was really cool that they did that. So yes, I am somewhat familiar with that.
So have you guys gone in your blog? Have you gone through, you just said sort of Italian movies there. Have you gone through as well all the kind of like Italian cop movies from the 70s that have action
We've done
in them?
a bunch of them, like the Heroin Busters.
And I wouldn't say we've done all of them, but we definitely have delved into them to a degree. Yes.
Yeah, because what's the one with like the 12 or 15-minute car chase that shadows in an empty room?
I was going to say this. In Shadows in an Empty Room. It came out on VHS, but it has an Italian
Blazing
title.
Magnum.
Blazing Magnum. I've seen that movie. I don't think we've reviewed
I don't think we reviewed that one.
So what was crazy is so Blazing Magnum is insane. It's when the Italians basically was like, well, let's try and do, Bullet or something like that, like have a ridiculous car chase and sort of outdo Bullet.
Well, what's funny about that is how they marketed it as almost like a horror movie, because Italian horror and giallos were also very big at the time. So if you see the cover, it's strange shadows in an empty room with like a horror-esque cover. Right. So they actually marketed the cover. They marketed the film as like a horror movie, which is kind of interesting and not very apt, but that's how they did it in America.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose this is like Argento's Profondo Rosso. If Argento's Profondo Rosso had a 15-minute car chase.
Right, well, that's
and Stuart Whitman shooting everybody within a 5-block radius.
Well, yeah, every movie could use some Stuart Whitman shooting everybody. I mean, that's
100%.
They got Private Ward.
Well, I strongly recommend, if you're looking for recommendations, that one's a great one. And then there was one that Roger Moore and
Street People.
Yes.
Where
he comes out of the top of the car with a bazooka, like it's Roger Moore with a bazooka coming out the top of a tiny little Italian car driving through a quarry. It's awesome.
Yeah, that movie definitely has its moments.
Yeah, it was great. Well, those two, I'm a big fan of, and I forget what the Italian word is it for. It's something like
Polizioteschi,
Polizioteschi, whatever movies. I'm a big fan of them. There's I think Raro Video, RARO Video.
Oh yes, I have plenty of Raros.
Blu-rays. Yeah, and I've been picking them up down at the archive.
Oh yes. And have you seen Live Like a Cop, Die Like a Man?
Oh yeah, that's absolutely phenomenal. Yes. I mean, best title of a movie ever. I mean, ever.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites in the Polizioteschi.
It's certainly better than Relentless Justice.
Well, that remains to be seen. But
no, I mean the title.
Oh, the title. It's like, okay.
That's a lot of justice. It's like never ending.
Yeah, it's a lot of justice.
It's relentless.
It's like Extreme Honor. And when he says, you have honor.
Extreme Honor. Michael Madsen. Have you ever seen that one?
I haven't, but it's honor to the extreme.
It is.
It's
I've actually
basically,
never
yeah.
seen Extreme Honor, but
Yeah.
the direct-to-video connoisseur, I think, is a big fan of that film,
Yes. Oh yeah.
or a
Sure.
certain person in the film.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not just Michael Madsen. It's other people. It's this other guy. So it's like
Yeah, like Live Like a Cop, Die Like a Man. Like that's a movie title.
That is
Relentless
that is.
Justice just sounds like well, first of all, there's the S at the end of relentless and the S sound at the end of justice. It's just too much. It's
Well, it's
Too
a lot of
much S.
sibilance, as they say.
yeah, a lot of sibilance, right? And it's very similar to the running joke in 30 Rock that Jenna is going to be starring in a film called Rural Juror.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, no one can ever say it.
And everyone's always just like Rural Juror. And Relentless Justice to me, like it's kind of like a rural juror thing. And also Relentless is not a good thing. It means there's too much of it to some extent. Like it's relentless. It's too much. It's annoying,
Well, I think there's the film series, starting with the Judd Nelson one and all the other ones. The William Lustig film.
Oh, it's not? Is it a fake sequel to those?
Oh no.
Basically.
Well, maybe, but
That'd be amazing, but I think it's separate.
What if they try and crowbar in? Oh yeah, this is really Relentless 5. I know Leah Rossi's nowhere near this movie, but like, please believe this is Relentless 5 because Leah Rossi's the only one who ties them all together, right?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the VHS. I have all 4 VHS for the Relentless film.
Wow, impressive. That's very Thai-esque. You have all the
Yeah, I have all 4 also on VHS.
Okay, wow.
Who's in? Isn't Forsyth in part 3?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, William Forsyth, the old Billy Force.
Yeah, Billy Force. Will direct hit himself, right?
Yeah,
wow.
right.
Oh, talking about PM. Yeah.
PM Entertainment's direct hit star, William
Yeah.
Forsyth. Well, gentlemen, a pleasure to have you here today,
thank
as
you.
I said.
Happy to be
And best of luck with the ongoing Comeuppance reviews.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I recommend everyone please go to the website. It will be linked, as always, in the podcast description. But go to their website if you love action movies. I mean, I'm sure you guys have reviewed every single PM Entertainment film.
It's very possible. I'll certainly a heck of a lot of them, and we discuss PM quite often on our podcast too, because we do have a podcast because it's 2026 and everyone has to have a podcast.
Podcast, yep.
But yes, no. Well, I mean, I think we've been big PM fans for a long, long time.
Oh,
and,
yes.
In fact, I went back and reread our Final Impact review today, and there was a lot of things I'd change about it. Like it's an older review, and I think we know a lot more about these types of movies now. We've had a lot of education since.
Yeah, well, 16 years ago when we wrote it.
Yeah, long time ago. but some of the observations are valid still. But yeah, I mean, it's one of our older reviews. But I'm sure we'll get into the nitty gritty of Final Impact quite.
We're gonna go way into the nitty and pretty much into the gritty as well.
Okay, good.
We're not going to ignore the gritty. The gritty and the nitty are going to be happening right here on this podcast tonight. So
there's Frank Nitty also. And then
yes.
Well, Nitty, isn't there a direct-to-video movie called Nitty?
Well, there's Nitty the Enforcer.
Nitty the Enforcer.
Nitty the Enforcer.
Yeah,
that's tremendous.
Yeah.
That is a movie that exists out in the world.
You guys, you guys need an encyclopedia of everything you've done, because I feel like you're the guys to come to. That if I'm like, well, I feel like I've watched all the action films in the world, you would go, have you watched these 13?
Well, we're happy to give suggestions.
Anytime.
And then something I always say, and I've been saying this for years, is there's always another movie. Always. There's no way you can see them all. So
Scott Adkins makes about 8 a year. So there we go.
Exactly. So does Nicolas Cage. So,
right. Also, by the way, I want to bring that up very quickly because Nick Cage said the greatest thing this week when being asked about, because he's in the new Spider-Man noir that's going to be on Amazon, right? So he was obviously they're bringing up the MCU because obviously the new Avengers movie is going to have 783 previous cast members in it, and they were sort of saying, and I don't know how the Spider-Verse thing is yet another separate studio, because there was Sony had the main Spider-Man and then the main Spider-Man, the main Spider-Man films. Sony had them. Then they shared those with the MCU, but now there's an animated and now live action spin-off that Amazon owns. I don't really understand it, but this is Hollywood. But she was saying to him about like, oh, you know, you should be in the MCU, or is this movie part of the MCU or something like that. She's like, if you're not in the MCU, you should be. And he goes, I don't need the MCU. I'm Nick Cage. And I just was like, fuck and yes. Gentlemen, your feelings on that statement.
Love it. Perfect response.
I mean, you can end almost any statement like that, or he could.
Yeah,
like,
true.
oh, we're out of broccoli at the grocery store. Well, I'm Nick Cage.
I don't eat broccoli.
I don't eat broccoli. So, I mean, no matter what happens in your life, if you are Nicolas Cage, you can say, I'm Nicolas Cage, and that just will end the discussion.
Usually ends most conversations.
Yeah. Ty, that example is kind of perfect. The grocery store being out of broccoli is such a Nick Cage situation.
It would. I can see him having to deal with that.
Yeah.
Yes. Having to process it mentally. How would my character, the character of Nick Cage that I put on over the top of my true lizard form, what would this character of Nick Cage, how would he react to the lack of broccoli? And he's processing it. And then he's like, well, he would probably have a wooden hand, and he'd probably pull out his tooth, and I've got to grow my hair long, and he'd be an alcoholic, but he'd also be an ex-secret agent. And so
but he's a vegetarian, and he needs his broccoli.
Yeah, he's a vegetarian, and he also can go back in time because of reasons.
He can look like his character from Bangkok Dangerous, the long greasy hair and the Hawaiian shirt.
But with his wooden hand from Moonstruck.
Exactly.
And the way he speaks from Deadfall.
Oh,
yeah, that's his best work.
But no, I have to say, this movie that we're going to be covering, Final Impact, this was a first-time watch for me. I had seen To Be the Best, and we had covered that on the show, the previous Michael Worth movie, but I had not yet seen Final Impact. I'd also seen the two CIA movies, which obviously also star the married pair of Lorenzo Lamas and Kathleen Kinmont. I had never seen Final Impact, so it was time to do that. And the Hallelujah, the wonderful gentlemen over at Focus Media in Switzerland have put this one out on a beautiful Blu-ray, which, when she was there middle of last year, Kathleen Kinmont signed a bunch.
That's great.
I actually have a signed Kathleen Kinmont Final Impact. Look,
I see that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Any response from her like, "Hey, Final Impact"?
No, not yet. But when I post the podcast, I'll tag her in it, because I have interviews with her, Michael Worth, and Lorenzo Lamas. So this is going to be. We haven't had an interview for a couple of episodes, so this is going to come back with three massive interviews. The stars of this movie.
Wow, that is something.
It's the PM Entertainment Bullet Points.
All right, so we have Oily Women Wrestling, nightclub kickboxing match, Michael Worth and Gary Daniels fight, Michael Worth versus Doughy Accountants fight at the Dr. Pepper machine, Michael Worth and Gary Daniels fight a second time, Michael Worth versus fighter in match on the way to Vegas, Jeff Langton beats the hell out of an unnamed fighter, Michael Worth versus Art Camacho fight, Jeff Langton beats the hell out of another unnamed fighter, this time clearly breaking his ribs and even lifting his legs up and repeatedly headbutting his crotch in one of the most brutal and painful PM sequences I can think of. Michael Worth versus unnamed blonde fighter. Tournament fight montage. Michael Worth and Lorenzo Lamas spar. Neon graveyard fight between Lorenzo Lamas and Jeff Langton. Final fight between Michael Worth and Jeff Langton. Gratuitous oiling up ladies credit sequence. Gratuitous nightclub with staff who have face tattoos. Multiple gratuitous flashbacks to Lamas losing fight. Gratuitous montage of Lamas training Worth. Gratuitous gambling montage. Gratuitous comedy waiter. Gratuitous Lamas late night shame walk through Vegas, ending in the ring with an on his knees giant man scream. So, gentlemen, Ty first or Brett, either one. What was your first experience with Final Impact?
Ty, you go first.
Well, I mean, I remember watching it 16 great years ago. It was pretty enjoyable because it's kind of like half punch fighting, underground fighting, and that's how we saw Gary Daniels, one of the first Gary Daniels we've ever seen. He's hanging around the beginning, right?
Yes, he is. Well, I don't mean to
Go
horn in
ahead.
here,
Go
but
ahead.
same experience. I mean, the first time I saw it was back then. Was that 16 years ago? Watching it for the website, and I guess trying to watch any PM movie we could possibly get our hands on. And to refresh myself for this podcast, I watched the very same VHS, which I'm not on video right now, but I'm holding right here. And on the front cover of, I don't know if they ported this over to the Blu-ray, but it's there's a quote. There's 4 stars, and it says "Kickboxing action with heart and soul." It says Minnie Madden from Hollywood Alert. Now, let me just ask you guys: what are the odds that that's a real person and a real publication?
I'll say yes. We need something.
And yes.
No, I think it was probably a name and a publication that Roger Corman made up many years earlier, and then they're homaging it by having it on the front of their movie.
It could be, and but they kind of telegraphs where they were going with this. This is very PM in the sense that I think either they created or were riding the wave of kick fighting / punch fighting / I said this in the review / arm fighting / leg fighting movies.
Arm fighting.
But not just a bunch of mindless punching, but trying to put a good plot with good acting in it. So
was there any other movie, Brett, in that list of body parts that included a fighter who picked the opposition up by his legs and then violently headbutted his crotch multiple times? Or does that only happen in this movie, Brett?
That's what it seems like. We've seen many.
You could back
that might be a first.
I think there might be a first, but see, that's why you always have to watch another PM movie because they're always bringing something new to the table. And and they're always throwing something at you. And
they're always like, what if this guy who's meant to be a professional athlete, right? What if he grabs him by the legs? By the way, the referee and the 2 managers they've walked away. Everyone has just walked away. They've thrown in the towel, they've walked away. And this guy is just he's dispensing relentless justice into his crotch.
Yeah, he is. Well, another good thing about this movie, I don't know what order you want to to this in.
No, we'll jump back. I know. Okay. I just wanted to bring up the crotch butting.
Okay, well, I can tell you were just chomping at the bit to do that. But
I know I had to whip that right in. I didn't want to forget the
never forget. I never forgot it.
But
it hurts every time. It hurts every time.
But another thing. I mean, there's a lot of good things about this movie. A lot of good things, and one of the things I like is, and this is true for a lot of PM movies and a lot of B movies in general, horror and otherwise. The side characters, like there's a lot of really good side characters. One of my favorites is the bad guy, Gerard. I believe that's his name. His coach,
Jake Gerard, played by Jeff Langton. Yeah.
Yes, his coach. He's like this cigar chomping guy.
He's brilliant.
I loved him.
Brilliant.
He was great. He almost stole the movie in his scenes. I just loved him.
I don't know who that was. Was that Glenn T. Rubago?
I don't know either.
He's down as corner man, but I don't know if he's considered a corner man or.
I mean, he almost looks like very real to me. Like he could have been a real corner man.
Definitely. He's phenomenal. Him as his coach with the little red baseball cap and the cigar, and he's just like, leave him to it. Let him relentlessly headbutt that guy's crotch.
Just his whole attitude and demeanor was just so great. And I mean, obviously, we're living in a post-Pauly from Rocky world.
We are.
So I feel like his character is kind of Pauly-esque, but I feel like Pauly had like no conscience.
Right. And this is very much PM Entertainment's Rocky to some extent.
100%.
And also with a lot of Karate Kid. as well.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, throw in handfuls of other, underdog martial arts and/or boxing movies, but yeah, that's one of the things that massively endeared me to it. And in fact, right off the bat, I did a little video last night, but right off the bat, while I was watching the first 5-10 minutes of the movie, all of which, like, it's a fantastic opening. I mean, it's just it's a classic early PM, like, opening 10 minutes. It just nails it. But I was watching it and I was like, I wanted the movie to be something, right? I wanted it to be like, but what I hadn't counted on was it being this movie. And I was so happy, like, that lifted me. Meaning, what I mean by that is I could never have expected, like, just how great this film was going to be and just how gloriously melodramatic and telenovela style this movie was going to be, while having legitimate great fight scenes, a phenomenal score. It was awesome.
Absolutely. And I even wrote that in my notes, drama. Like, they really went for the drama on this.
Yeah.
And there was that especially powerful scene, which I thought was one of Lamas's best acting moments, where he's sort of like in the ring by himself, and he's
I love that part.
And he's like on his hands and knees, and it's almost like a religious epiphany type of moment. And I thought, Lamas is doing it. He's really going for it. I thought, it wasn't just him shirtlessly with a vest walking around. I mean, which he does
flawlessly, by the way.
Yeah, flawless vest and no shirt wearing.
Yeah. I don't think Lamas puts on a shirt. In fact, I'll tell you this: I do not think Lamas is wearing a shirt unless you count he wears a tank when they go to see Jake Gerard fight, so that Michael Worth can, like, figure out how he's going to beat him. Lamas is wearing a tank. But that's still not a full shirt. The first full shirt I think he wears is the bit you're talking about, where he goes on his late night Vegas pity walk around the beautiful lights of Vegas. But it ends with this. Yeah, talk us through it, Brett.
Well, I just, I mean, where can I begin? I started off talking about that's the other thing. If I can just interrupt myself here, there are plenty of dramatic moments, but also there's some funny moments. It's really all encompassing. Like, because the other side character I wanted to mention was the wacky waiter.
We should get to him, but I think we should build to him.
Okay, no, fair enough. Because because a lot of movies have a wacky taxi driver. This movie has a wacky waiter, and but to counterbalance the wacky waiter, there was a dramatic moment
played by Robert Beale, by the way.
Wow, good.
Robert Beale, who plays Michael the choreographer in Sunset Strip, also a PM Entertainment movie, but plays nosy neighbor, although uncredited, in the movie Texas Payback.
I've seen that movie. Yeah, Sam Jones. It's Texas Size Payback. Texas Size Justice.
Yeah, but no, he goes all the way back to City Lights days, having also been Frank Cohen in Contra Conspiracy.
From
1990.
Ty, you've seen that, I think, right?
We have seen that, yes. We've seen Emperor of the Bronx.
Well, that's a City Lights.
Robert Beale isn't, no, but they did make that movie, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, just trying to stay organized here. So, like you were saying, John, the opening moments are really good because there's
sexy title sequence. First of all,
right? There's a sexy title sequence,
sexy oiling up women's buttocks.
Which is funny because it's not really indicative of what we're going to see. I mean, this movie is not about female wrestlers or fighters at all. But I think it draws your eye, because they probably figured most of the people watching this movie are probably men. That hooks you in. And then, Michael Worth goes to this underground club, where...
but I think we should talk more about the oily buttocks. I think...
whatever you want. It's your show, man.
I think we should focus more on the oily buttocks. Tyler, talk us through the oily buttocks.
Sure. That was the best part of the movie. Forget the bats. Forget the shirtlessness.
Forget the drama.
Yeah.
Forget the drama. Forget the pretty dark stuff that goes on later in the movie. That was it. It's like,
when you guys watch this, so from the credit sequence beginning, first of all, love a good credit sequence.
Sure.
I forget what movie I was watching recently because we don't have credit sequences anymore. In fact, sometimes you don't even get the fucking title of the movie till like
No,
the
the movie
last
just,
minute,
that's right. It just starts right in. Yeah.
which is just the weirdest thing where you
I
watch
need
a
a
whole
title.
movie and then it goes bum bum and gives you the title of the movie. You're like, no, that doesn't work. But no, I miss a good credit sequence. And there was a modern movie that did a credit sequence the other day, and I was like, that is a delight. But when I put this one in and saw that there was a credit sequence, I'm like, brilliant. Not only that, but did you get the idea from this movie, especially the way Rick Pepin is shooting it? Because it's utterly gorgeous. The film is utterly gorgeous from start to
Totally
finish.
agree, because
Yeah.
it's moody most of the time. There's a lot
Yes,
of
good
shadows,
point. The
a
blue
lot of
lights.
darkness. Yeah, and I
Right.
enjoyed that as well. I know it's not
Yeah, I
one of
mean,
these movies that's overlit. It's almost like film noir-ish lighting a lot of the time.
oh yeah, completely. And I don't know if you guys are going to go down the road of importing the Blu-rays or whether I think Claudio, who works for Focus Media and I think is Focus Media, basically the main guy there, Claudio Ulrich. I think he was saying recently that the upgraded prints, because he's been doing 1080p transfers from actual film prints. So this is a great upgrade from the VHS when you watch these Blu-rays. He was saying that he thinks FilmRise is going to load these, so replace the ones on Tubi with the high def versions. I think that's what
great.
FilmRise are going to do. If not, if you are thinking of, well, maybe, and the audience as well, well, I don't want to spend all the money importing all the Blu-rays. If I don't know what the prints are like, I don't know what it is, blah 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 blah. If you're hesitating at all, I will 1000% guarantee that Final Impact looks the business on Blu-ray because Rick Pepin's cinematography is popping all over the place. And then when you've got even the opening credit sequence where you've got like very close-up shots of thighs and crevices and bosoms and everything else, even in that, the detail and everything, and you can see like the pores of the skin and all that kind of stuff. Like it's really, really beautiful. So if you were thinking of importing the Blu-ray a go, and was it worth it? This one, for definite, I would say is worth it of all the Blu-rays they've done.
Well, and that's another thing that people maybe don't know or understand about PM. It's like they took the time. You were saying how beautifully it's done and how much they really care. And this isn't just a throwaway punch you in the face movie. You could tell it was done with care. You could tell they were really serious. It's so many like disposable movies come and go, like a lot of things you might see on Tubi or what have you. They're really making a movie here.
Yes.
It's not. It's like it's very well done and thought out.
Yeah, I think you could put this on. If I don't know, if you were going to do a screening of sort of 90s action films or 80s, whatever, you could play this alongside, Bloodsport or, any of the other Karate Kid, whatever, any of the movies of the day, you could play this against them. And I don't think anyone would know that one was a $1 million movie and one was $100,000 movie.
And a lot of that is down to Pepin.
100% down to Pepin. He's absolutely the way he shoots this. And I was so the first thing, I'm really glad you noticed that, guys, because I wanted to say that this movie felt like, and I don't know whether it was a combination of we've got Lorenzo Lamas and he's up and coming and he's on Falcon Crest and had been in the Snake Eater films and some other things. So I think they were potentially thinking, I don't know, if we gloss up our movie with Lamas, maybe this is going to take us, because they were always trying, right? Like what takes us to the next level? And I think from the very opening, what we are getting here in this nightclub sequence that we can talk about, what we're getting here is we're getting the time taken with the cinematography. So they've lit it properly. And Ken Blakey is actually the gaffer on this. Ken Blakey would go on to be a cinematographer in his own right. So you've got Blakey and Pepin working on this. So they've lit it really well. They're shooting it really beautifully, but they're utilizing the cheapest of set dressings, but in the best possible way. So when you have that like long shot of Lamas at the bar with the like deep blurred rich background, all they've done is put like a bamboo plant, like, you know, so that there's some shadow against the wall, and put him sat at a bar. But you buy it instantly. They don't need to do anything more than that. When you shoot something well, light something well, and score something well, you know, a pot plant does a lot of work. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's true. And to be fair, it's supposed to be like a chintzy cheesy club. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not.
Oh, no, completely. Yeah.
So it's not like it's supposed to be something else. That's what it's supposed to be, because, you know, Lamas's character is, you know, he's hit the skids, you know, he's down and out, he's drinking a lot. He loves his Jose Cuervo, as we see many times.
He used to be the champion of the fucking world.
Exactly. And there's all these Nick Taylor, who sounds like he should be in Duran Duran, but
right. Yeah, none of the names are very good in this. Like the writers are really good writers. Stephen Smoke, I think he wrote a really great script. But,
yes, he did.
But Nick Taylor, Maggie, Danny Davis,
Danny Davis, the boy name.
Yeah, and there's no like names that really pop out. I didn't mean to say.
I forgot their names.
But at one point in the movie, don't they be like, and the name that's on everybody's lips today is, and then it's like Danny whatever, and you're like, that's not a name I care about. That's it. Right.
I forgot his name every time they said it. Like, oh, right,
you're Danny Davis, right?
Yeah. Who are you again? Danny Davis. Yeah, I'm not going to remember that because it's boring.
Which I'm surprised they didn't even have a line of dialogue about that. Like, who are you, kid?
He should be called like Jazz Cummings or something.
Sure.
Or like Smack Dackley or something. You know.
Or at least the bad guy should have been called that.
Right.
Those Smack Dackley.
But in that scene, we're first introduced to Gary Daniels, who obviously we know.
We are. I just want to. Sorry, Brett. No, we'll jump. Very quickly though. Another thing with the economy of set dressing, but beautifully shot. The scene where the first Lamas Worth scene is absolutely fantastic. It is word perfect. The acting is absolutely tremendous. And again, what they've done is they've gone, we'll give him a chintzy desk. We'll put some glass tiles behind him, and we'll light the glass tiles, you know, amazing, fabulous pink, right? Yes. And we'll shoot everything in the longest possible lens imaginable. And we'll have him swiveling his grease-backed hair around in a chair and talking to Worth. Every line, I'm sorry, if Tarantino, word for word, put that in a movie, and even ironically cast Lorenzo Lamas now in it, right? If you, like, think of the scene in Kill Bill 2 when Michael Madsen goes in and gets, like, dressed down by his boss, right? You could put this scene between Lamas and Worth in any Tarantino movie, and critics everywhere would be exploding with orgasms over his incredible dialogue.
100%.
Yeah, I can't agree more.
And that's another great thing about B movies, and the B movies that Tarantino is so influenced by. That
borrows from liberally,
maybe a little bit. But critics will laud Tarantino to the heavens, but they probably have never seen Final Impact. So. Right. You know, once again, the B movies get the short end of the stick, even though there's so much, and pardon the pun, worth to them.
Oh, completely. I mean, the scene, and this was the scene where I was like, oh, it's this movie. Oh, I'm going to enjoy this way more than, like, because I'm not a big tournament film guy, right? So I don't mind watching them, and it's fine, and I've watched a lot of them, but I thought this was going to be like heavy on the tournament, right? I didn't really look into what this was before I put it in. So once I realized it was, over the hill, like guy who wants to reclaim his glory days, and like young buck upstart, enter this incredibly fast and seemingly not very well organized world champion thing, I was like, and then he's got some drama with his girlfriend, and this is happening. I'm here for this. This is wonderful. And he's not wearing a shirt for the first 45 minutes.
There's more. I agree, Ty. So if you didn't want a tournament movie, you probably were very pleased at the final fight, because you know it's going to come down to Danny Davis and Gerard.
Right. Yeah.
It's really fast.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's not a fight that goes on and on and on and on like it might today. It's you're in and out. It's like a super
Yeah.
fast final climactic fight, and
Well, because
I
all you're
appreciated
waiting for is for him to notice that she's there. Because she says earlier in the movie, the only fight Lamas ever lost was the fight I didn't show up for. Right.
Right,
And
right.
so he got me my lucky chair for your fight. And then something happens, and we'll get to that in a minute, but something
Yeah.
happens that makes her go, I don't want this fight to happen at all. And he's like, I'm fighting. I'm fighting and I'm killing and I'm fighting and I'm doing it. I'm angry, I'm pissed, I'm fighting, right? And she doesn't show up. And so, like, for the first bit of the fight, he's looking over at the chair, it's empty, and therefore he's losing. Therefore, he's letting his face be pummeled and blah, 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 blah. And then she comes and sits down. And as if magic happens, he just
You got the
starts
power.
winning. And then he wins. And then, you assume they go home and she goes, well, I know that my husband gave his life for all this bollocks, but do you want to come home with me? Anyway.
Well, yeah, or as we call it in comeuppance, finding the power.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you find the power.
Where
Yeah.
you find the power.
Yeah,
But,
he's-
and also
he-
to that point, which is a good one, which is she wasn't there at the fight at the Neon Graveyard, and we saw what happened to Nick.
You know,
So-
what happened
Yeah.
to Mr. Lamas, Mr. Taylor.
But I don't want to necessarily, like, I want to build to that a little bit.
I understand, and we have
fine.
something we can
Fine.
say about that too. So
Yeah, but no. So we were at so we get this great scene in the pink room. Lama says, "Hey, let's see if you fight as well as you talk, or whatever."
yeah, exact quote, I think.
So you're like, great, this is PM. First of all, we've established our stars with a absolute killer opening scene. We've had oil wrestling, and now we're going to get our first fight with Michael Worth. Like, we're not stopping for anything. This is PM. There are high kicks to be done and ponytails to be waved about. Ty, why don't you talk us through this first fight between Worth and Daniels?
I was very happy to see this fight. At first, like, oh, hey, look, it's Gary Daniels. And look like Gary Daniels is winning. It's how clearly he would beat Worth, no problem.
Well,
in another movie.
we did
Right.
kind of see that in a later scene. There was a bit of a fake out as we
Yeah,
saw.
exactly. So, but yeah, that was really enjoyable. It's like, hey, 'cause I like when Gary Daniels drops by in these earlier PM movies like Ring of Fire.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it was really fun to see him pop up. This was a fun rewatch, I have to say.
Yeah, well, in the interview with Daniels on the Blu-ray, he does say, and it's not a long interview about this particular movie. He's on other Blu-rays, but about this particular movie. But he did say that he was always not hanging around PM, but like PM was one of his main places to kind of go and see if they needed anybody, and he was. They had every intention of making him like the leading man. They ended up making him. But while they were shooting all these other movies and had all these other scripts coming in, they were like, do you want to show up and be a hood in this one? Do you want to show up and be a hero in this
Which you
one?
can kind of tell when you watch this movie.
Like, okay.
That's what it seems like is happening. It's like, oh yeah, we could use you for a few minutes, couple scenes, and he worked his way up. But yeah,
Him and Art Camacho are like neck and neck in cameos in these early fight films.
Yeah. But when we first see him, he's doing a very impressive physical feat, with a split on the ropes.
Yeah, amazing split.
Which of course will put anyone in mind of Van Damme. Which
he is PM Entertainment's Van Damme.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much my point. That maybe they couldn't get Van Damme, but they got Daniels who can do the same physical things.
Yeah,
and
it was talk with a proper accent. No,
well, exactly. So, again, it's another example of B movies doing similar, if not better, things than mainstream Hollywood.
And there's nothing, by the way, sensible about Gary Daniels' accent.
Oh, well, I wouldn't know. I'll take your word for that.
His vowel sounds are all over the place. It's very odd.
Well, but yeah, so we see the fight, and then you think, oh yeah, Danny Davis or whatever his name is, cleans his clock, and it was so easy. Yeah. But then in a later scene, we get a reversal to show that it was all a show.
It's all a show.
Yeah, but what's so weird about that is that at the end of the fight, Michael Worth calls to Lamas out in the bar, and basically says, I'm invincible, or whatever, right? To which Lamas then gets super mad, right, about that, right? Tells Kathleen Kinmont to go home. I mean, look, if you're so angry that some young little upstart shouted, I'm invincible, that you're going to turn your back on Kinmont. I mean, Lamas, I understand you were married to her and therefore you could see her anytime, but I'm sorry, there's no way anybody is turning their back on Kinmont, but Lamas does in this movie, so fair enough. He gets all mad about it. He sends a couple of doughy accountant-looking guys to beat him up by the ice machine at his motel.
Yeah, Dr.
Right.
Pepper.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could almost argue that if he didn't yell out, I'm invincible, this whole movie never would have happened.
Never would have happened. Yeah.
Because, that really hacked off Nick Taylor. It's like, wait a minute, this kid's not invincible, and I'm going to spend 90 minutes showing him that.
I'm going to put my cowboy hat on and go all the way down to the motel. I'm not going to put a shirt on, mind. A shirt would be ridiculous.
No time for that.
No time for a shirt, but I am going to go find my enormous black pimp cowboy hat, and I'm going to go down to the motel where Michael Worth is just trying to get ice. And I'm going to set 2 doughy accountants on his ass, and then I'm going to say to him, nobody's invincible. I'm like, what? Really? We're meant to think you're like the king of kings, and you're so petty that you sent 2 guys to beat up some young guy from Ohio. What?
That might be the funniest scene of the movie. Because we're in
that
Joey people.
Yeah, that I did enjoy that as well. I thought that was good.
I mean, no offense, I'm a doughy person, but
yeah, we all are.
You wouldn't want me in a fight sequence.
Well, I guess, but again, that could have been done on purpose because Nick Taylor wanted to prove a point, basically saying, hey, if these doughy guys can get the better of you, maybe you're not so invincible.
Right.
But yeah, and also I did find it funny that a couple times Michael Worth calls Nick Taylor old man.
Yeah.
It's like Lorenzo Lamas is probably in his 30s, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, yeah, you're an old man.
Yeah.
And
Lamas, who looks like, he looks like he's, I don't know, 28 or something. And
he looks, I mean, he's probably younger than all of us are right now. And
definitely.
For sure.
And I just thought that was funny.
Plus, he's head to head oil, tanning lotion, and hair.
I mean, well, yeah, that's his height. Like with the oil, tanning lotion and his hair, he's probably 6 feet. But if you take all that away, he's probably like 5'3".
Yeah,
very short man, actually.
It's his first movie with PM, which is why I think it feels a little bit like PM rolled out the red carpet for him a little bit, just in terms of how good the movie looks and everything.
Oh, and the fact that he had some dramatic meat to work with. Right. The fact that he's front and center on all the artwork. I mean, this is Lorenzo Lamas is like,
gladiator cop himself, Yeah.
Also, what I love about it is they've gone Lorenzo Lamas, shirtless, oiled up, and you would think, oh, you've just done that for the front cover, but no. I mean, talk about truth in advertising. If you get anything in this movie, you get oiled up, shirtless. Lorenzo Lamas. That is a PM Entertainment guarantee. They're not tittillating you with that front cover. They're flat out telling you are getting oiled up, shirtless Lamas.
Another reason to love PM. They tell the truth.
Another reason to love PM.
They say what's on the tin.
Right. Isn't that a Britishism?
They do exactly what it says on the tin. Yes. That's exactly what it says.
But yeah, I'm talking about Kathleen Kinmont. I mean, obviously, they were in a relationship, but it was nice to have her here anyway. Like they didn't have to be together. And I would just say she brightens up the whole movie. Any scene she's in, it's almost like a ray of sunshine in that kind of dark, shadowy world. Like even her wardrobe is very colorful.
The bathing suits, the swimming costumes are like, they're insane. They're like, they look like stained glass windows if it was made in 1986 by Cyndi Lauper.
But it's funny because, and so I just appreciated her presence. And she also puts in a really good acting performance, especially in the more emotional scenes later on. And,
she does, although isn't it funny? Like they're all great in it. This is not none of this is necessarily a negative. But it's funny because, and I've heard other actors say this. I've heard other directors say it. I've heard other actors say it, that real life couples often don't have the chemistry you think they would have on the screen. Like they don't have that intense like sometimes the actors who have the best chemistry can't fucking stand each other in real life, but on screen it reads as sort of, fiery passion or whatever. Whereas I felt like while Kinmont is doing great and she has some cheeseball lines to sell and she actually sells them real well. I don't mean cheeseball in a bad way. I just mean cheeseball in a like melodrama, telenovela, one liner. Like every line in this movie is like a one liner. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but that's typical for the action genre. I mean, that's not
something
unusual.
quick to say.
Yeah. So I noticed they're a couple. They don't have kids. They're a childless couple. So I think when Danny Davis comes into their life, they almost see him as like a surrogate son, and they both kind of care for him. And almost like she's like a momager in a sense. She really guides him. And
apparently, until after she's had a couple of drinks and is feeling sorry for herself. And then shit gets real Pornhub real quick.
It can, but again, if anyone who's had a Long Island iced tea or two like she does in the movie, those go right to your head.
No, but what I think is funny, Brett, is that I'm a big fan of Kids in the Hall, and they always do those those insane either alcoholic or irascible or disagreeable parents. Like especially dads are always portrayed pretty badly in Kids in the Hall. Well, what's funny is how the movie plays out with Kinmont and Lamas is that almost every scene descends into some sort of incredibly serious, emotional, but you do it to yourself, Nikki, kind of scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what I think about that is I always think like as it goes on, they get drunk, Lamas almost sleeps with a prostitute.
Yeah.
Like it's like Mummy and Daddy went off the rails.
Yeah. Which is funny. So I was going to ask you guys, maybe I missed this or maybe he said it, but like, how she basically leaves him after that prostitute incident.
Yeah.
But then she comes back.
Yeah.
How did she, because of the neon graveyard fight, how did she know that he was in that fight? Did he say, I'm going to go do it? Or
no, she finds Michael Worth.
Yeah.
I thought, and he tells her?
Well, I remember she's saying that he's fighting at the neon graveyard tonight.
Okay, because I wasn't sure how she knew he was fighting.
No, didn't she bumps into someone who tells her.
Oh, okay. All right.
Does she go down to the fight room or down to I think she goes down to the dressing room or the fight room or something? And
I just don't remember that. I mean, it's not important, but I was wondering if you guys remembered because, she comes back and, she's worried and everything. And it's like, wait, you left, but now you're back because you knew. That one little part,
Brett, you have to remember, she's always loved him and will always love him.
Yeah. Well, that's the important thing.
Well, that's
so she will always love him.
Yeah.
That goes without saying. No matter if he treats her really badly, often doesn't listen to her advice, walks out on her multiple times, fights again even after she's begged him not to, dies on her, almost sleeps with a prostitute. That's before he almost dies, or actually dies. Yeah, it's mad that yes, they have this great love affair, but at the same time, he's an idiot, and then he only realizes his massive litany of mistakes on his deathbed like a coward.
Yeah, no, I mean, Nick Taylor definitely has some flaws as a person. And
right.
It is kind of hard to see what she sees in him a lot of the time.
Well, I think it's the vest.
The lack of shirt.
Well, yeah, that has. What else could it be? I mean, women can't resist it. They're helpless.
It's his lack of shirts.
Yeah,
she was like, I don't want any men with any shirts.
With the
shirts
vest.
just take up time and space. Right?
That's true. If he was just shirtless, I'm not sure that would work. But the shirt with the vest, irresistible.
Oh, that's a slam dunk.
Yeah, shirt. What I loved, guys, is that we start the movie. He's in the leather vest, which I feel like shirtless in a leather vest is something of a Lamas icon
Trademark?
kind of
thing. Well, that's very
trademark.
renegade of him.
Right. Doesn't he do that a lot in the show?
Yeah, sure does.
Yeah. And I feel like there are lots of like Lorenzo Lamas covers that have him shirtless in a vest. I don't know why shirtless in a vest just screams Lamas to me, but I mean, there it is.
Yeah.
He's the pioneer of it.
Often duplicated, never imitated.
Yeah.
Right? No,
Oh, and that's the other thing I have to say. Like I've seen some Lamas films, but I've not seen enough of them for me to really know him well. And I really appreciated him in this movie. He is absolutely, Lamasing it to the max zone, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Yeah, it is Lamas to the max, and like I said, he does get plenty of dramatic time in the sun. But also, what's kind of funny is the reaction shots during the fights. Like anytime Danny Davis does something good, he's nodding his head up and down. When he does something bad, they come back to him not shaking his head from side to side.
Or like clenching his fists and gritting his teeth, or like tutting or whatever. Yeah,
yeah. There's a lot of like good reaction, bad reaction to what happens in the ring, and which because they do that so much throughout the movie from start to finish, I eventually started to find it kind of funny.
All right, so now we have some clips of interviews with Michael Wirth, Lorenzo Lamas, Kathleen Kinmont, and Joseph Mehi. That's right. It is a quadfecta, if such a word exists, of interviews on this episode. And so we're just going to get right down to it. I'll announce each person as they come on. I think first up, we'll probably do Joseph Mehi, followed by Lorenzo Lamas, because they have a story that kind of goes together. Then we'll have Kathleen Kinmont, and we'll finish it off with Michael Wirth. But thank you ever so much for listening. I hope you're enjoying this episode now that we're back, fully back from our little break in between episodes. And don't forget, please, to rate and review us on wherever you can rate and review podcasts. Most importantly is something like Apple Podcasts. That'd be great if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, to rate and review us on there. And don't forget, you can always reach out to us at pmentpod@gmail.com. That's pmentpod@gmail.com. Or call us at 347-669-0053. Please enjoy these interviews. Thanks.
Well, we were like desperate to get anybody who's known to be in our movie. So because the foreign market and later the domestic market, they always look for somebody to put on the poster. And Lorenzo was a face, a good-looking guy. He's a martial artist. Do you remember the name of the television? Renegade.
Renegade he made with Kathleen Kinmont, who's obviously also in a lot of your films.
Yeah. So I called. I think I met Lorenzo through Eric Estrada.
Okay.
Eric Estrada, remember Eric Estrada?
Yes, from Chips.
Yeah, from Chips. I think I met him or gave me his number. I think. I'm not sure. But I think that's how I met Lorenzo. So I told Lorenzo about the script. We met, and I told him about the script and the idea of the CIA. And he said, I would love to sit with you and talk to you about it. And so we had a breakfast in North Hollywood, in a restaurant in North Hollywood. And we had a breakfast and we're talking about it. And then he told me he couldn't do the movie. He couldn't do the movie because he just got this show called Renegade, and he's leaving San Diego. I said, "You're moving?" He goes, "No, I'm not gonna leave I have a house here. I go back and forth. They're giving me an apartment there, but I am gonna be shooting in San Diego for the next couple of years." I said, "Oh, it's too bad." And so we walked out of the restaurant, and right in front of us, in front of the restaurant, was a Lincoln Ford auto dealership. And so we said, "Oh my God, look at this Lincoln." And we walked in, and we looked at it, and he was very, very, I think it was like white and blue interior or something. A beautiful, beautiful car. and it's in the showroom. And he goes, "My God, I love this car. This will be great to travel back and forth to San Diego." I said, "If you give me 6 days shooting, you can have this car right now." He goes, "What?" He looked at the price tag. The price tag was like, I don't know, 32,000 or something. It was 32,000. And I said to the guy, "Open the glass door. I'm writing you a check for this. You want it?" He said, "Are you serious?" I said, "I'm serious. You want it? I'll write him a check. You can have it. You go back and forth to San Diego, and you give me 6 days. All I need is 6, 7 days, 8 days at the most, whatever. I'll shoot you out." He said, "Okay." And they take the car out of the glass doors outside. I write a check to the guy, give it to him. He gets behind the wheel, and I said, "Well, what do I do with your agent if he calls me?" He said, "Don't worry, I'll give him the spare tires." That's what he said.
That's his 10% or whatever. It's 15%.
Yeah.
It's a spare tire. Oh, that's fantastic.
and we didn't have a contract. We didn't have an agreement. We didn't have anything.
Lorenzo Lamas. It's been fantastic these last few months working on this PM Entertainment project and getting to speak to everyone who has worked with Joe and Rick. As you can see, I've got my collection of your films that you did for PM on VHS. And I just got the new Blu-ray of Final Impact that Kathleen was over in Switzerland signing just about a month ago, I think. But I actually wanted to start, you'd been acting in film and TV really since the sort of 70s. But in 1989, you made the movie Snake Eater, which would go on to become a franchise. And this was the first time, I think I'm right in saying, that you would start in an action movie as sort of the main lead. What made you want to go in the action movie direction at that point in your career?
Oh, well, I was just such a big fan of the action heroes of the day, Charles Bronson, Chuck Norris, even the James Bond movies. They were always, James Coburn did his American version of James Bond in movies called, In Like Flint and so forth. And I just always wanted to be in the action genre. But, my first big break was with Falcon Crest. So that was a nighttime soap opera, the complete opposite of action movies.
Right.
So my agent asked me to read a script that he was sent by John Dunning and the gang up there in Canada called Snake Eater. And it just seemed like Deliverance. It's like it was another version of Deliverance with these basically zero brain power hicks living in the bayou, in some fictitious swamp. And I just was intrigued. I thought the character Jack Kelly was just what I was looking for to do.
Yeah. And I think Joseph told me that that sort of way he became aware of you was through Snake Eater. But how did you become aware of PM Entertainment? Joe tells a great story about buying you a car, which I hope you're going to tell me has actually happened.
He didn't buy it, the son of a gun. He leased it. He leased the car. So I had to give it back after 36 months.
Oh, I see. Okay, fair enough.
Right. But that's Joe, Joe's a good businessman.
Yeah.
I think what happened was that Joe or PM, somebody over at PM, called my agent and sent over Final Impact, the script.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved the character because it wasn't, I had been doing action movies. This was like probably 90s, I'm going to say maybe 93, 94. I'd done a few action movies. I think I'd done 2 Snake Eater movies. But yes. What was interesting to me about the character in Final Impact was that he was the mentor. He wasn't the protagonist. He wasn't the lead action hero. That was Michael Worth. So my character was sort of like the guy that was on the end of his career, you know, that was bitter because he lost a fight and started drinking, and it was just a very interesting character for me, acting wise, because he had all these demons, right? So I signed on, and I'm glad I did. That was the first of, I think, a couple of movies I did with Joe and Rick.
Yeah, you end up doing Final Impact and the 2 CIA films. With Final Impact, first of all, what was your impression of PM? I guess as you sort of started work with them and their particular brand, because while there were a lot of companies out there making action movies in the 90s for certain, PM had their own look, their own feel, and I actually think put better quality on screen than a lot of the others. So how was your feeling about working with PM and working with your co-star Michael Worth as well?
Right. So the thing, I had done low budget movies because of the ones I did in Canada, because of the Snake Eater movies. So coming from big budget, network television, to then doing movies that weren't going theatrical at the time, they were just doing a straight to video, was a little bit of a kind of a change up for me, if you will. Less time to shoot, practically no rehearsal time. It was just a different animal altogether. But I embraced it because of the opportunities that it gave me to play roles that I really liked and really had fun playing.
Yeah.
PM at the time, being that it was an independent studio, like you said, they really, Joe really, really worked at the script. He really, really tried to make stories that were compelling. Because without a compelling story and characters, you're going to lose interest in the movie. It doesn't matter how many special effects you get right. If you don't care about the characters, you don't care about what's happening on the screen.
Yeah, of course.
So he really did focus on the characters, and he cast his movies really well. And I think that's what set him apart from all the other independent action studios. They kind of thought of the characters and the story maybe as an afterthought, and they really promoted the machines and the toys and the devices, So that's my impression anyway.
Rick Pepin was obviously the producer, but also the cinematographer for Final Impact and both CIA films. Sadly, I'm not sure if you knew, but he recently passed away. And I just wondered, what were your memories of Rick on set, and also working with him as a director for CIA 2? What were your memories of Rick Pepin at that time?
Well, you've probably heard this before if you've interviewed anybody with regards to Rick, but Rick was a very, very chill, calming force on the set. He wasn't a typical DP that threw a tantrum if he didn't have enough time to light. He was invested. Let's put it that way. He was invested in the product, invested in, getting the shot that he knew was going to be able to tell the story and propel it forward. Very helpful to me as a director, because, between the two of us, we knew what shots we needed and what shots we didn't for editing.
Right.
So he was just a super nice, really, really cool guy. And, Joe was too, but Rick even more so. Rick was just very calm and very friendly. We'd laugh at stuff, just easygoing guy. Gary Daniels had a very small part in Final Impact, and then he went on to have a big career with PM, and it was great because they would find these action stars and build them up and make movies with them, and it was fantastic. But the stunt people that I've worked with on PM and everywhere, really, I've been very lucky. I've had great stunt people, very willing to learn new stuff, because I was bringing new stuff to these guys. A lot of the stuntmen didn't have martial arts backgrounds, so a lot of the rehearsal time was spent, helping these guys to learn how to take a technique to the ground so that, nobody got hurt, right? And we had time to rehearse. We rehearsed a lot of the fight stuff in Final Impact. Jeff Langton was fantastic. He obviously had a big martial arts background. So our fight was, we could really, really come close with the kicks and the punches because we both were skilled. We weren't going to hurt each other. But we could make it look real. And the same thing with Mike Worth. He had martial arts background. So working with Michael was easy because, we just kind of went back and forth in a very trusting way, knowing that, the kicks and the punches to the head weren't going to make contact because we had control. And it really is all about that. It's all about the control that you have. And the more you do it, the better you get at that control, So I never injured anybody on any of the movies or TV shows that I did. And that's because we rehearsed and there was a period of time where you do everything like half speed. And then by the time you feel comfortable and you're ready to ramp it up for the take, we all knew which way we're going to go, so.
No, of course.
And it looked great and nobody got hurt, and I went into tables and I had candy glass bottles broken on my head. And, I went through windows and glass and all that stuff. And over the years, downstairs and everything. But, it's all about taking the time to rehearse it. And so the camera operator knows where the action's going to be, where it's going to start, where it's going to end up. So you don't have to keep doing the same thing over again because the cameraman will know where you're going to be. So that saves time and it saves, people's bodies, knowing that they don't have to do the same master, 10 times and be exhausted. And then you get sloppy and that's when people get hurt,
Yeah.
They were really excellent people. All the people that Joe and Rick put in front of me, as far as the action goes, were really, really good stunt people.
Yeah. I think it's why the films still hold up today, sometimes even more so than some of the straight to video movies being made today or straight to streaming movies being made today, because I think there's more budgetary constraints these days in terms of where you can shoot, how you can shoot, and things like that, compared to Joe and Rick, who were very often blowing up downtown LA without any permits sometimes, but that's what they did.
They used real gas too. They'd fill 55-gallon drums with gasoline half full, and then we'd have great weapons people and demolition guys, and
didn't seem to be anything they couldn't do. But no, so any final PM memories, and what do fans say when they come up and talk to you about the two movies?
Well, the PM memories really are of driving to Las Vegas to shoot Final Impact. We all caravan together. Joseph in his little Mercedes, his little black 4-door sedan, and Kathleen and I were in my pickup truck, and we would stop. Joseph would stop. He'd pull over. We didn't have cell phones. He'd pull over. We'd pull over with him. We go, "Hey, what's up? You need gas?" He goes, "No, let's shoot something here." So he had Rick with him, and he'd pull out the camera, and we'd use a gas station. And we just stand around and kind of walk around and pretend like we were talking to each other. And he had this gas station in the background, this old-fashioned from the 50s gas station.
Yeah.
And it was just impromptu stuff like that. We stayed at the Sands Hotel. And I remember filming that scene up on top of the roof with Michael Worth, where I think I'm telling him about, the future is in his hands, giving him this mentor-like speech. And just looking out over the city lights of Las Vegas, the Strip, at night, just special memories like that.
And do apart from people like myself, do people ask you about your PM films, like on the street, or do they remember those early action films that you made?
Yes, of course they do. The hardcore fans, they'll come up to me on an autograph show and they'll ask me about how was it doing the PM movies and how was it working with these other producers, and they're very knowledgeable about the companies that produced these movies back in the 90s. And, they'll know the storyline. They'll remember more things about the character than I'll even remember.
Yeah. And do you like that? Do you like it? Was that era for you? Do you look back at those early 90s? You were taking your steps into action films, getting more of maybe the genre that you wanted to be in, getting the chance to direct and stuff. Was that a really great period for yourself? Was that something you look back on frequently, or you always?
Yeah, I think that was the high point of my creativity as an action star, and quite frankly, as a director as well. So yeah, that was really, really a great time for me in my career. And I'm so thankful that it's preserved on DVD, and they have different formats coming out now, these movies, and I'm just thankful that they'll forever be available to watch. If you're a fan and you just feel like watching a cheesy 90s action movie, I've got plenty of them.
Yeah, no, and I have a whole Lorenzo Lamas selection in my VHS and my DVDs. You're one of the
a lot of fans that would be jealous of you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Good.
they got the Lorenzo Lamas category. They have Don Wilson's films.
Yeah.
They got Gary Daniels films. They got Olivia Gruner's films.
Jeff Speakman. Yeah.
Jeff Speakman. I mean, these guys, we were all part of that great action genre, that didn't have the big studio behind them. And, so there's a special category. I'm not sure what to call it, but.
Oh, I mean, I call it a golden. It was definitely a golden era, especially for the video shop era.
Yeah.
Most people are from the video shop era. They'll either talk about horror films or they'll talk about action. Those were like the two big ones.
And those Snake Eater movies. I mean,
movies,
you just have to realize that there's a lot of it that's campy and corny about it, but it's really entertaining. Those movies, looking at them from today, are really, especially the first Snake Eater, it's really entertaining.
Oh, it is. No, it's fantastic. And like I say, the only crime a movie like these can make is to be boring at any point. And most of them,
we weren't boring.
Weren't boring. Well, Lorenzo, thanks ever so much for your time today.
Terrific. Thank you for being patient with me. The schedule's been crazy the last couple of weeks, so I appreciate it very much.
Busy man. All right, take care. No problem.
Bye-bye.
Kathleen Kinmont.
But yeah, I mean, that place was a bona fide factory. That was such a bustling place to work. And my brother ended up working there quite a bit. He worked on about 80 films for PM.
Oh, nice.
Okay. And one of his best friends, who he met on PM, who was already an employee, Gil Wadsworth. Okay. He's amazing. You should get these guys on as like crew if you ever
would love to. Yeah.
Now, and Lorenzo too. I mean, like, they found out that I was married to Lorenzo pretty quickly. And then that's when my relationship with Joseph really started to develop, because he really wanted Lorenzo. And he started talking to me about what Lorenzo would want to do. And I said, well, he's a black belt in 3 forms of martial arts. So anything with that. And then I think Final Round came after
Final Impact. Yeah. Because it's kick. Yeah. That came after.
The different movies I did with Lorenzo.
Oh yeah. All good.
We did a Final Impact, Final Round, CIA 1 and 2, and Snake Eater 3 or 4.
Yes, Snake Eater 2, the drug buster. You were in. I think, was that the first you were in with Lorenzo?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first movie we did together with Larry B. Scott. That was fun. From Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah, of course. Having come from sort of the world of independent horror and independent action films as well, having done these movies and things with Lorenzo, obviously you said your agent got you the job, but how aware was the industry in general, or certainly sort of the straight to video industry or the action industry or the, because VHS kind of blew everything up. It gave filmmakers a new avenue in a way that maybe the cinema or the big projections weren't doing. How aware were you of sort of PM Entertainment, or was it just you just went in completely dark, apart from obviously the audition and knowing who you were going to be working with?
I didn't really know any of their movies really, but I knew all the people that were making their movies.
Making them, right? Yeah.
Right. So it was more like I guess I probably was way more of a pop culture person who just went to the movies. And
right.
On occasion, Lorenzo and I would go to a Blockbuster and go pick up a VHS for something that was like, hey, wow, we didn't see this in the movie theater. Where did this come from? Mickey Rourke is in this, or like, oh, wow, look, it's Eric Roberts again in movie number 572.
Bless Eric Roberts. How many movies has he done so far?
Well, I just
thousands
did a movie with Eric Roberts. He plays my dad. So I was so excited for this movie to come out because he's like, who doesn't love Eric Roberts and who hasn't already been in an Eric Roberts movie? He's like,
right. He's his own industry. He's his own institution. It's quite incredible.
He really is. Like everybody, forget the Kevin Bacon thing. We're all related to Eric.
Roberts. Oh yeah. I mean, 3 degrees. I'm probably 3 degrees from Eric Roberts. I mean, everyone's done something with Eric.
No,
he's
I'm
fantastic.
0 degrees because I just worked with him, so I feel like yes. And he plays my dad, which Margot Robbie just had happen in Babylon, which was amazing.
Right.
Where I was at that time of my life, in my early 20s, and just really starting to get into the business and work kind of like steadily, it was just forward momentum for me. I was just like, okay, I've done this, that's done. Now this, okay, what's this about? So when I look back at kind of my career and all the different parts that I've had, and you talk about Bride of Reanimator and Halloween, it's almost like another person to me.
Right. Yeah.
Because you put that outfit on and then you take it off and you throw it away and then you get somebody else,
Yeah, and they were making the movie so quickly.
You just put it in the closet, way in the back.
Yeah, of course. And especially with PM, they made so many movies. They were making 5-10 movies a year. It's there was no time to necessarily sit around and think about it. And finally, Michael Worth.
At that point, right before I got that part, I'd always said that one of the things at this point, I've been working now for a few years. I said, if whatever happens in this business, if I can just get a part in a movie or a TV show that if you were to cut my part out, you would notice something was missing from the story. That was my goal. Right. That was all I wanted to do, is just have a part. Like I was doing all these things on Alien Nation or, Police Academy stunts or whatever it was, where I'd walk in, you'd have a fight scene maybe or something else. And if you cut those scenes out, you'd be like, no, you wouldn't really notice it. But that was my goal. So when, and I've read for a number of leading role films, I just had never booked anything. So when Final Impact came along, at that point it was called The Flying Dutchman. That was the screenplay was written by Stephen Smoke. And so I read it, and I didn't, PM, you got to keep in mind at this point, I think PM had done 2 movies. They had done some comedy they had shot in Vegas that Richard Munchkin had directed, I think. Maybe Joseph directed or Richard did, I can't remember. And they had done Ring of Fire. And when they wrote Final Impact, or they wrote the Flying Dutchman, they knew they wanted Lorenzo, but their original idea was to do Lorenzo and Don the Dragon Wilson. So Don would have played my part and it would have been Lorenzo. And then as they were going through it, I think the idea of Don was he was a little older, and he was also stuck in that sort of like professional kickboxing idea that they thought having Lorenzo train Don the Dragon didn't quite, it just wasn't ringing for him. So they decided to open it up.
I mean, no offense to Lorenzo, but Don had several world titles by that
right.
point.
No, exactly. Now, and I will talk about Lorenzo, but he was actually, Lorenzo proved to be a really talented fighter.
Of course. Yeah, no, I know. I just
but you're right. I mean, Don the Dragon, it's like this guy's, was the guy. So So I went out there. This time PM was located out in the valley, out near the Anheuser-Busch um, factory that was out there. So it was. I lived in at this point. I lived in Marina Del Rey, so it was a good little jaunt for me. And I'd drive out there, went into the offices there, and they were in a little cul-de-sac. It was a small building. It had like about maybe 5 or 6 offices in it. You know, you walk in they own the whole building, or they were renting the whole building. And when I went in there, there was, Vince Murdocco was in there. I think Gary Daniels was in there. Ian Jacklin. These guys were all coming in to read for Danny's part. I didn't know. I didn't know who Gary was. I didn't know. The only people I knew at that time, when I was aware, was Eric Lee and Lorenzo.
Yeah.
So when I went into PM, like I said, they'd only done a couple movies at this point, and Ring of Fire was, I hadn't even heard of it at that point. So anyway, I went in there and did a little reading. Lorenzo was in there, Joseph Murphy was in there, Kathleen Kinmont, Catherine Lautner, Eric Lee. I did one scene with Lorenzo, then Kathleen got up, I did a scene with her. And then they just said to me, now we throw some kicks and punches. And at this point, that's all I was doing was like, if I wasn't out trying to get a job as an actor, I was, practicing, training, sparring, whatever. So I was really confident in that area. And I just started doing jump spins and tornado kicks and just, went through the whole roster and left. And what's funny about it is that normally in the process of an audition, for those who don't do it, usually go in once and they'll get called back usually once, twice, 3 times. Like when I was doing Batman Forever, I think I went back 7 times. And for this, though, I went in once, and then what happens is your manager or the producers call you and say, "Hey, you booked the role." Well, what happened to me was 2 days later, it might have been on the weekend that this happened. I get a phone call from Eric Lee, and Eric's like, "Hey, Michael," he's like, "we should start talking about fight scenes and da da da." I'm thinking, oh, maybe I got a call back, and I'm getting brought back in, and he wants to talk about something they want to do. It was in my head. All of a sudden, I hear somebody yelling at Eric in the phone. I think it was Charla or somebody going, "Eric, what are you doing?" Charlotte Driver, who was one of the producers on the film, and he goes, "Oh, I got to call you back," and he hangs up. But what had happened was they had just decided to use me. He got so excited, he called me up to want to start putting together the choreography, and he, preceded my manager finding out or anything. So that's how I found out I got the part.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. People in the background being like, "No, not yet."
Yep, that's right.
Don't tell him yet. Yeah. So I hadn't come across. I mean, I've watched obviously about 60% of what PM put out so far, and I'm watching all the others. But I hadn't come across Stephen Smoke before. I see that he did like 2 or 3 with PM early on.
Yeah.
Do you what did you know about Stephen, and how was Stephen as a director when you were working with him?
What's great about Stephen is that so when we shot Final Impact, he was the screenwriter.
Yeah.
And he was kind of going in. He was a friend of Joseph's too. So Joseph, and I think at that point they were sort of like his deal with Joseph. I don't know if it was an actual contractual deal, but just maybe a handshake of a deal. Knowing PM Entertainment at that time, it was probably more of a handshake, which was he'd write this film and then get the opportunity to direct something later. Because while we were shooting, Stephen was there throughout the whole shoot. At one point, there was a sequence in Final Impact towards the end. It was after Lorenzo's character, to spoil the movie here, had died, and I was getting ready to fight Jeff Langton's character.
Yeah.
There was a scene that we shot in a locker room where I'm in a locker room, like kind of being morose, and then Frank Reeves, who plays Stevie, comes in and has this little scene where he talks with me, and it was just a small scene, maybe a half a page or something, but Joseph came up to Steven and said, "Look, I'll give you an hour and you can shoot this scene." And so he kind of gave Stephen Smoke the opportunity to direct the scene, to sort of like cut his teeth a little bit. Now, the scene got cut out of the movie, but I don't think that was because of Stephen's fault. I think they just realized it was a scene that wasn't moving ahead what they wanted to move ahead. But the funny thing about Steve is that he had written a series of books called Ninja. There were paperback books out in the U.S. and they were called The Ninja Master, and he wrote under a pseudonym. But I had collected all these books when I was like 15 years old. And when I got on the set, he told me, "I wrote those books." I was like, "You're kidding me." I go, "I love those books. I got all 7 of them." And so it was really kind of a fun. And so Steve and I actually hit it off. And between Final Impact and Street Crimes, we'd spent a lot of time together, and I would train with him, and he wanted to learn some martial arts. As a matter of fact, Stephen was close to George Lazenby, who played James Bond and
Right.
Majesty's Secret Service, and George was looking for somebody to train him for a movie, and I actually trained George for about I don't know, it was a month or two, and I was training him for this martial arts part. We talked a lot about Bruce Lee and James Bond and all that. In fact, Stephen Smoke, myself, George, a couple other people went to a screening one time of a PM movie. It was Deadly Bet, is what the film
Yeah.
was. I remember it was a Jeff Wincott movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the point being that Steve and I built this great relationship. And so when they were grooming him for Street Crimes, he couldn't tell me, but he had written it for me and he wanted me to play it. So but he couldn't tell me until everything was in place. But Steven's a great guy.
Oh yeah, no, fantastic. And yeah, and it looks like just that he just directed Street Crimes and Final Impact, and then he wrote Living to Die, Final Impact, Street Crimes, and Magic Kid. So he really only did just work with PM as far as IMDb is concerned. I don't know if he changed his name or did other stuff or whatever, but
yeah, the only thing he directed was Street Crimes, as far as I know. I mean, he did the one scene in Final Impact. Joseph actually had Lorenzo direct the scene in Final Impact too. There's a scene where I get jumped in front of a Coke machine, and Lorenzo basically directed that scene. So Joseph was great that way. Murray was like, I felt like was, he was like, he was just learning the ropes himself, but I think he wasn't afraid to like let people have their little moments and try stuff, and which I really
oh no, he
appreciated.
loved collaboration. I mean, that was
Yeah.
Joseph's biggest strength. And I think interestingly enough, like speaking to Joseph and Rick especially, and then as I said, I came out of it having watched the Cannon documentaries. The big difference between PM and Cannon is that Joseph more than Rick, because Rick was more focused on the technology and the technical side of stuff, cinematography and the technical side of stuff. But Joseph especially a lot more collaborative and involved, like just boots on the ground, way more than Golem and Globus were,
100%. I can tell you that I never went to actual film school in my life, but I've always said this, that PM Entertainment was absolutely my film school. I mean, I had, as a no-name actor, a bit player, a stuntman, whatever, I'd worked on these giant movies, Paramount, Fox, Warner Brothers, whatever, but you're always kept on the out. You sit in your trailer and they call you up and then they kick you off the set when they're done,
Right.
But when I got onto Final Impact, it was my first time really learning about filmmaking, but learning from the vantage point of how a low budget independent film company does it. And I came in with completely dumb ideas of how this works. In fact, when I found out I had booked the role of Danny in Final Impact, I thought, I hung up. I didn't know how much money I was getting. I was like, oh my God, I get to buy my first house. I had all these ideas about, and then when I saw what my paycheck was, I was like, oh, I can't buy a house with this. Maybe I'll buy a boat or something. But
Right.
The learning experience I had through watching Joseph and watching Rick has served me through my career. I mean, I'm still utilizing it today, especially like one of the things that Joseph had that I thought was important that a lot of directors don't get is the producer side of it, because they were running a company, right? So they had PM Entertainment. They wanted to build it up and turn it into basically what it had become. And at that point, like you said, it was Canon, it was, Roger Corman. There was a number of companies that were sort of doing that thing and being successful, but they were like aspiring to this. But I felt like he, as a director, had that producer mindset. And a lot of directors will go in and go, I got this vision, I got this idea, and they don't think about, you got to get it done in an hour and a half. And if you're not going to get it, what are you going to do next? And Joseph was always thinking of what to do next. And that was one of my big lessons. I was like, okay, I got it. You can't just be stuck on plan A. You got to go to plan B. I think the other thing that was so fun about it was that when we were shot the movie, we started shooting in LA. So the first week was done in LA. And then I just assumed we're all going to hop on planes and we're going to fly first class and land in Vegas and do something. He's like, nope, we're not. We're all getting in cars and we're driving to Vegas.
Yeah.
and he says, you're going to go with Lorenzo and Kathleen so you guys can bond and, work on being together. And we're going to all carpool behind you, and we're going to stop along the way and shoot a couple sequences as we drive from Los Angeles to Vegas. And I was like, oh, that's how you do it. As a matter of fact, when we first arrived in Vegas, we didn't even go to our hotels. Normally, you would go to your hotel, get settled in, and maybe start shooting the next day. Joseph said, "Nope, we're going to meet at this hotel, wherever the address, right off the strip somewhere." And he just said, "We're going to start shooting this scene." And it was the scene where Lorenzo is sitting on the car, and I come out of a hotel. I think he's just Gary Daniels has just beat me up or whatever, and I step out, and we have this confrontation. That scene was like we just pulled into Vegas and he just basically told me to put on these clothes and we shot it in this parking lot of a hotel. So that was the kind of way they succeed in doing movies in 3 weeks. Final Impact was shot in 3 weeks or, under 3 weeks, really.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, I don't know, I got a little tangent there, but that was,
No,
I guess I was
that's
just trying to do.
fantastic behind the scenes stuff. No, we love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I guess what I wanted to finish is capital. Is just say, listen, Joseph was has been a huge person I reference back to. I was actually working with David Mamet on a script he had written that I was going to direct a number of years back, and we were talking because he'd done a movie called Spartan that Joseph had produced, so he had an opportunity to work with Joseph as well, and it's just Joseph always popped up in my head throughout my career whenever I was making movies. And actually, Final Impact, Street Crimes, and To Be the Best would all have elements too. But Final Impact was such a profound learning experience for me through doing the way they shot that movie that I can't thank him enough for that stuff.
Yeah, no, it seemed like that PM was a place where, like you say, no, you're not going to buy your first house working on a PM Entertainment film, but you are going to come out of having worked with PM Entertainment, stronger, better, wiser, more equipped to go out then and maybe, get the bigger role. And a lot of the people like yourself who did 3 or 4 films with them sort of have a lot of the same kind of stories where they're like, we were in it to make the movies. We were in it to get what we wanted on screen. We were in it to collaborate. It wasn't, and we were in it to kind of make our first mark in the industry. Not necessarily to be like, well, we're just going to hitch our wagon to PM for the rest of our career, but to at least learn, use, and get your face out there on a VHS or whatever, as it goes into the store so that people start to learn your name and see your face. And then that's the next step. And it's funny because even talking to Spiro Rosatos, the stunt guy, he was like, I had a decade's worth of reels from PM Entertainment films, and weirdly, no one would look at them. He was like, it was really, really difficult. He said, but I will always, much like yourself, I will always credit PM because they let me do stuff on a PM movie, and I learned to do stuff on a PM movie that Hollywood would never have given me a chance to do. So even if the reel that I was left, even if I had to do, lower man on the totem pole kind of things in Hollywood in order to make that leap, as he did onto the Fast and Furious movies, he's like, by the time I got to the Fast and Furious movies, all the gags I was doing were gags we had done with PM. Like we just knew how to mount them after all that time. So no, it's one of the reasons why I'm drawn to them as well. Because I mean, look, I love action movies. I love straight to video stuff. I love B movies. I love the fact that it's a kind of place for people to play and come up with weird stuff and do different things. But I genuinely like the PM ethos from what I've gathered from speaking to everyone, and just sort of the way they did it seems to have been a way that I think sadly probably doesn't exist anymore, or isn't possible anymore in the way that they used to do it.
Well, the other thing is about what you just said that's important too about that time period when I did Final Impact, which was somewhere in 91, when we started the production of it. The thing is they weren't. You mentioned straight to video, and I know that's come like a term for this era and these companies, but at that time they were still getting their movies in theaters. In fact, we had Final Impact had played in Los Angeles, and Kathleen and I went to see it in, I think it was Downey or some other, but it was playing in 2 theaters. I mean, it was a very limited release. But
Right.
we went out there, and there was 8 people in the seats, and we sat and watched Final Impact on the big screen, and it was great. But this was kind of, they came into a time where people were still trying to get their films in theaters once they realized, hey, we can just go directly to these Blockbuster and VHS rentals, and it went and shifted in that other direction by the time. I mean, I think Street Crimes, I think, did play in a theater as well, but it was, that shift was quickly happening.
Yeah.
So
No, I only say that because, when I was talking to Rick, he was saying, the big light bulb that went off for them was, even though they wanted to shoot on 35, because like you say, they did show up in some theaters, they did have local screenings, they also showed up at film festivals around the world, and they screened in Asia and in Europe and in other
Yep.
countries as big theatrical films. They just didn't in America in quite the same way. But he said the light bulb moment for them was the straight to video model, because they wanted to distribute their own films.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I know they screened, and I know that they were on some cinema screens, but they sort of became known as a home video
Oh, sure.
company at a certain point. So you said, yeah, you were working with Lorenzo, and you were talking about obviously his martial arts prowess and things like that. Tell us a few stories about working with Lorenzo on Final Impact, and how his training matched up with your training, and I don't know whether you helped him or whether he helped you, or anything like that. What was working with Lorenzo and by extension Kathleen like?
Well, both of them were very mentorish to me, because they had already had spent some time. I mean, they both come from entertainment families, with Arlene Dahl and and Dalton and Fernando, the whole thing. So their experience was, they were so much more experienced than I was at that point. As a matter of fact, that was one thing as an actor that I was continually trying to utilize, was I'd never even been to Vegas. So it was like the whole thing for me as an actor was so new and fresh that I knew that was kind of what Danny was, this sort of wide-eyed kid that was going into all this stuff for the first time. So I just sort of allowed my experience to play. But Lorenzo was great. I loved hanging out with them. We were in Vegas. We'd spent a lot of time together, Lorenzo, Kathleen, and I. And Lorenzo and I sparred around a few times. He comes from a much more stronger, like, karate, kendo background. So he has a very particular style, which was great, because mine was much more kung fu and tang sudo and Muay Thai. And in fact, there's a scene in the movie where Lorenzo and I, it's like where he's kind of wanting to test himself to see if he's ready to fight Jake again. It kind of is a very poignant moment that you don't realize in the scene. We're on the roof of the Sands, and you got the fire from the Mirage across the street in the background. And Eric Lee was who had Art Camacho with him as an assistant at the time, was going to, like, kind of choreograph a sparring thing. And I said, well, how about Lorenzo and I just spar? I said, he knows how to do it. He fights where he comes from. I've been doing it since I was a kid. I said, let's just get up there and we'll spar, and we get a couple little pieces. You can come in for some pickups, because they had a very particular way they would shoot fight scenes, in this era, that was very interesting. But so when you watch the scene with Lorenzo and I on the roof, I just said, let's fight a little bit. Go ahead and just go for it. We're going back and forth and punching and kicking. And at one point he kicks me, and I'm kind of like trying to back up away from it. And as it tags me, I hit the ground, and that was totally unintentional. So we just used it in the scene. But yeah, he's strong. Lorenzo is as strong. As a matter of fact, I remember somebody asking me on that set one time. He said, well, if you were to pit all these guys together and have them fight, who do you think would be one of the hardest to beat? And I said, Lorenzo. He had such a, I felt like he had such an aggressive style to him, and a very determined, he wasn't like this movie star kid. Like, no, he was hardcore, man. So, but yeah, it was great. I loved working with him, and Kathleen and he really helped me a lot through that experience, just because, about the cues and about showing up at the right time, and watching the light for your face and this and that. And so it was great. I like both. I have such good experience. We became great friends after that. I mean, I hung out with them for years. I was around when he was getting Renegade started. They were saying, hey, look at this idea we have for the show Renegade. We want to pitch over to Stephen J. Cannell. I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. So, Lorenzo and Kathleen are great.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, guys, because they appear so often in the movie. The fight crowd, gotta love the fight crowd. Absolutely fantastic.
hilarious
Who is
fight
your
crowd.
favorite in the fight crowd?
I have
Tyler?
an answer, but if
Yeah,
you
go
want to
ahead,
go
Brett.
first, Ty.
No, go ahead.
There's a guy that they cut back to countless times, no matter which fight it is, who's sitting sort of in the front to the right, who's wearing sunglasses.
Yeah.
Sunglasses guy.
Yeah, the sunglasses
Yeah.
guy. Because it's, as we talked about, Pepin, he had this moody, smoky, dark cinematography, and it's dark in there, and he's wearing sunglasses.
Very sunglasses.
He's going full Corey Hart, sunglasses at night. I liked him. He was my favorite crowd.
Yeah, he couldn't be beat. Do you have?
Well, I think I've got him beat.
Oh,
I think long hair mustache beats him every time and twice on Thursdays. Long hair mustache with the and he was in every single scene, and I don't know why, but they put him like center. So if the crowd is this whole thing, long hair mustache was just right in the middle there. And while I appreciate you looked around and found glasses guy, and I also on the second watch of this movie found glasses guy. The first time I watched it, mustache hairdo every single time.
Now we were talking about the sunshine of Kathleen Kinmont. There's a corollary in the character played by Mimi Lesios, who's the wife of Gerard, and I was glad Mimi Lesios is here because she ended up starring in some movies, some very low budget movies of her own, like Streets of Rage. Is it time?
Streets of Rage, yep.
Yeah.
I think Beyond Fear.
It stars Mimi Lesios. So this is sort of like early Lesios. And I mean, obviously she's just the wife of Gerard. It would have been great to see her in a fight, maybe with Kinmont, because they could both do it. If there was one thing this movie is missing, maybe it's that. But I was happy to see Mimi Lesios.
Yeah, it's nice to see her again because I haven't seen her in a while. So it's been fun. Because all you used to review is these old Mimi Lesios movies.
And also this movie has something that a lot of action movies have, and especially movies like this, which is an extended training sequence.
The montages abound in this movie. The montages are absolutely delightful.
Because you don't get to fight Gerard overnight. Lamas has to put you through your paces.
So we get a extended fight montage before we even leave for Vegas. So we get after the melodrama with Kinmont and Lamas by the swimming pool while he's grilling something up. But before they go to Vegas, we get extended, wonderful fight montages with Lamas and Worth doing all sorts of stuff in the gym.
Yeah, the movie wouldn't be complete without that. And it's funny you should mention the grilling because she says there's like a line of dialogue which says like, "Oh, you don't usually grill on Tuesdays" or something like that. Like, that's non-grill Tuesday apparently in the Lamas household.
When he grilled, maybe Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, must be. So she knows something's up. He's grilling on Tuesday. This is very unusual.
Yeah, but I bet Brett, if you ask anybody's wife or girl or long-term girlfriend, they would all go, no, that rang totally true. If I came home and my husband was grilling on a Tuesday, I'd be like, oh shit, something went down. I bet wives around the world watching that movie went, yep, got it.
Yeah, no,
I think that's a very astute observation by the writer of this movie.
Oh yeah. So definitely. By Stephen Smoke. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Great name, by the way.
It's a great name, but none of the characters do.
Right, well, maybe they didn't want anyone to steal his spotlight.
Well, his name was Danny Smoke. It would be kind of cool.
Right? And his observation about the grill is ironic considering his name is Stephen Smoke.
Yeah, right.
But then, there was all this antagonism in the beginning where he's calling him old man and everything. But then when they go to that first gym, he ups this bet with the guy from $300 to $2,000.
Yeah. Well, that's during their drive to Vegas. He says you're going to have to prove yourself one more time. And how about those shots of them all in the car? Everyone really drove to Vegas. A car with Joe and Rick and everyone in it. And then there was a car with Lorenzo Kinmont and Worth in it. And what they would do is that they would pull over, stop, and shoot a scene of them like driving up the road or whatever, and then carry on driving to Vegas. And it's a great thing that PM do to kind of make this feel more cinematic, because when you see that big classic car, riding down this long, focused, straight road from Los Angeles to Vegas, and that music playing, John Gonzalez getting to do like some rock sax and driving guitars and stuff like that. I just thought to myself, this looks cinematic. This looks like a
clever
movie.
idea.
And yet all it is, guys, you drive behind us, and when we stop, you stop. And then we'll just film you for a bit, get back in the cars and keep going, because we've all got to drive to Vegas anyway. But by doing that, it, cinematic. It just blows it right. And that's what it is. In some lower budget PM films, or some films where they've spent more money on explosions and things, there aren't transition shots, right? You just they would go from, right, we better leave for Vegas, to them entering the gym where he fights the guy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In this movie, there are transition shots, beautiful shots of Los Angeles that Rick Pepin gets through the haze and through the smog, and with these beautiful pink and yellow sunsets, right? Just stunning photos of Los Angeles that he's getting. And then on this ride to Vegas, he's just blowing it out and making it look beautiful or whatever. Then they have the fight scene where you just were talking about the betting. And then, when he wins the fight and they make all this money, and Lamas even gives Worth a cut of the money, they get back in the car, and there's more music and more car, and then it goes into Vegas and you see the Sands Casino. And I'm like, to me, I just thought that elevated the whole damn thing.
Oh, I agree. And it's an economic way to do it, because they're driving anyway. It's cleverly done. It's well done. It opens up the movie. Like you said, it's not just in these little cramped interiors. It gives it that open feel. They're upping the bet to $2,000, which adjusted for inflation is probably closer to like $4,000 these days. It shows that he really believes in Danny Davis, and also that scene
again.
Right, exactly. Who? But it also serves another dramatic purpose, because after Nick Taylor passes, then that trainer guy kind of fills in as Danny Davis's corner man.
Yes.
So it's like, it's a good thing that guy is around. It's like all of a sudden he's there, like with very little to no explanation during the final Gerard fight. It's like, okay, he's the guy who's now coaching Danny. So it definitely made sense for that reason too.
Right. Yeah, we have to meet him at that point, because he has to be established that he's going to show up. Well, he shows up before the fight in the Neon Graveyard. That's why he's in town when Worth fights Gerard at the end of the movie, and why he steps in, because he was there for the Neon Graveyard fight.
Right. And that all makes sense. And also, if you look at the marquee, which I'm sure you guys noticed, I believe it's at the Sands, where it says Eric Lee's Kickboxing Championship.
It does. When they first go to the Sands, so at the end of that driving sequence that I talked about, they get to the Sands, and the first sign you see says Eric Lee's. Yeah.
Right, because he, and for those that might not know, he did all the fight choreography on this movie, and I think other PM movies. So the fact that there was kind of a nice little shout out.
Oh yeah, no, I loved it. Yeah, it was a little kind of Hitchcockian nod to the guy behind the scenes.
Okay, so now can we talk about the wacky waiter?
Yes. Well, the wacky waiter takes. Yeah, so we get the Art Camacho fight, right? Oh, and by this point, Lamas, just to keep the shirtless going, he's wearing a black denim jacket and his cowboy hat. No shirt. Still no shirt.
No time
for shirt. He hasn't had any time between driving to Vegas and sitting down by the pool. Whereas Kinmont has had 3 costume changes in this whole time.
Yeah, she had plenty of time to do that.
He doesn't do costume changes, that Lamas.
No.
He's like, I go from vest to vest to jacket. That's it. That's what you get.
There's a couple different vests. That's about as far as it goes.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding. We don't have to talk about the wacky waiter. But I did think that it was funny that the movie took the time to have this wacky waiter character who is selling all these different desserts and saying like, oh, the macadamia nuts will dance around in your mouth and all this stuff. And I thought, and he has all these funny sayings for his desserts. And that's something you have to love about this movie, is that they took the time to include these quirky, funny characters.
Right, and I think there's still a part. So Smoke co-directed with Joseph May, right? And Joe was, his first love was comedy. That's what he wanted to write. Like the first movie he writes is Hollywood in Trouble, which is sort of this wacky comedy. And everyone looked at it and went, make action films. Nobody wants comedy. So occasionally when I see a scene like this, where it stops, not only to me does it fit into you're talking about Bill Lustig earlier, but fit into the Bill Lustig, Larry Cohen, Jim
yeah.
Wynorski, all those guys who were making, especially Larry Cohen, who always wanted to be a Borscht Belt comedian. I mean, that's what he always wanted to be. He always wanted to be a guy doing stand up in the Catskills in the 50s. Like that's what he always wanted to do. All those guys take time out in their movies to have, wacky. I was just watching a Wynorski joint the other night. I was doing it for the DTVC podcast.
What was that?
We were watching Victim of Desire with Wings Hauser and Mark Singer and Shannon Tweed.
Yeah.
We were doing a Shannon Tweed double bill. And in the midst of it, my old and dearly departed, but my old dear friend, Peter Spellos, who I absolutely love and adore and was very happy to be able to call him a friend for a little of his life. He has a scene as sort of a wacky mortician and with a little pulley with ribs on it.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I love those directors so much. I mean, you mentioned Lustig, Cohen, and Wynorski. I love those directors, and that's one of the reasons.
Me too. They're my faves. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And that's part of the reason why is
But I would put Joseph May in that group now because very often he would put in a little comedy scene, and also I mean, when is this? 92. All right, so it's a little it's not pre Tarantino. There's been a couple of like kind of Tarantino-esque things that have come out, but not enough for this to be influenced. But there is a certain thing where I guess they go, well, we've put a little bit of sex in there or sex appeal. We've got a whole lot of fights in there. We've got the sort of machismo and, I've got to do it for honor and for, revenge and for whatever, all that kind of malarkey. And then we better throw in like a little comedy scene because it's about, not only has it been real dark, because right before this scene, they're at the fight where Gerard absolutely decimates his opponent. I mean, breaks his back, breaks his ribs, headbutts his cock several times.
Yeah.
It's and what's weird is I understand that the whole purpose of that particular scene is to build him up as an absolute ruthless bastard, not only to be taken down later on, but also to pose just what a threat he poses to Lamas, to Worth, to everyone in this group. Like this guy is a maniac. And what was weird was both times I watched it, because I kind of watched it last night and then I watched it today, kind of, fast forwarding some bits, but watching other bits just to kind of keep my head sharp on the whole thing. And even today I was watching it and I'm like, that's a real, I understand that others could laugh at it, but that's a real brutal scene. Like that hit me every time.
Oh, it's the same thing with the dramatic scene with Lamas and the flashbacks. So those punches look really hard.
They look real.
Yeah. So no, they definitely took time with that as well. And so when the wacky waiter shows up, you're right. It's a palate cleanser.
It's a breath of fresh air after you've just seen a guy beaten probably close to death.
Yeah. So, but you're right. It's a total entertainment in that sense, where it's like, we have drama, you have comedy, you have action, you have romance, I suppose.
Oh, and talking about the comedy, what about the second montage in the movie? Is that wacky gambling montage where Worth is a wizard at the tables?
He has a system.
How does he have a system? He's never been to Vegas before, and all of a sudden he has a system.
That's true. And he said, I'm very good with numbers.
Okay then. But I love that montage.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It really was.
That's like the calm before the storm, because then we get the drunk sequence.
Yeah, I think that's why they did that. It's like, okay, we can also have a little bit of fun here. And there's like the pit boss who's looking at him like, oh, I don't like you, kid.
Right. Well, there's also, what's nice about it is it also rings true. It's another thing that rings true to me is that when you go on a binge, right, a bender, an alcoholic spree, right, when you're doing something like that, it does start. So the first half of the montage is all happy and everything. It even ends with, Kathleen Kinmont winning some money and everyone's smiling and it's all wonderful, right? But then there's that point in the evening where the booze turns. You know what I mean? Where there's always that point, and when there's always that bit where you have that one drink too many, where you're like, oh, shouldn't have had that one. I should have stopped at 2 or whatever. Should have stopped at 3. And so I felt like that whole transition into kind of the dark side, from the light side of the moon to the dark side of the moon, I thought was done really well.
Oh, I agree, because it's realistic. Like you said, things can happen that way, and the fact that it had the comedy and the drama and all, and the fighting with the emphasis on honor and redemption and all that, it definitely reminded me of like a Hong Kong film from this time, because I am a fan of those. Like, and they had those ingredients too. Now, was Murphy and the gang influenced by that? It's unlikely, but you never know. I just think it's interesting, a parallel. When you look at some of the movies coming out of Hong Kong at that exact same time in the 90s. And I think parallels can be drawn there.
Yeah. But I loved the idea that she would show up drunk to his room, to Worth's room, and then Lamas would show up drunk later also to Worth's room.
Yeah.
I thought that was just a really nice
like a symmetry.
Well, because Paul Worth has got to fight like the fight of his life tomorrow. The fight of his life tomorrow. And mum and dad are bickering. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. It's so like mum and dad are drunk. Dad's almost made off with a prostitute.
Yeah.
And mum is trying to make eyes at me.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Everything is wrong here.
What a mess.
Yeah. Well, but Michael Worth, what's interesting, there's a bit of foreshadowing to that to show his honor. If you remember when the first scene, when he walks into that sort of oil wrestling club or whatever it is, and the hostess says like, "Oh, you can oil up a woman for $20," and he's like, "No,
he said no."
Oh, he's so offended by that.
Yeah,
no thanks.
It's so funny. He's so squeaky clean and naive about the whole thing. She's like, you can oil up a woman, and instead of being like, that sounds amazing, have you seen the buttocks and boobs on these broads?
Did you just watch the credit?
Did you
watch the credits?
Did you not? Michael, listen to me. Watch the opening credits, and then when she says, do you want to oil up a woman, you just say yes. In fact, at any point, you say yes to that, unless, like me, you're happily married, in which case you never say that ever again.
But the parallel to that is then when Kathleen Kinmont comes on to him, he is a gentleman and doesn't take advantage of her, and he kind of puts her to the side and puts a blanket over her. And so it's like he won't oil up a woman. He won't do anything with Kathleen Kinmont.
It could also be because he's in love with Lamas.
Probably is.
Which would also explain why he wouldn't want to touch a woman.
Well, I wasn't necessarily saying homosexual love with Lamas. I'm just saying, I think Worth is sort of asexual, but I mean, in terms of,
I agree with that
because he's too honorable and he's too Ohioan and he's too squeaky clean and whatever. I think after he wins the fight and he levels up and gets his power freeze frame at the end of the movie.
Yes,
power freeze frame. I think once that happens, all bets are off. And I think him and Kinmont are going back to the homestead to play stepmom and stepson.
No, I think that is what's gonna. That's kind of hinted at that might happen. That he might kind of take Lamas's place.
Yeah. Although she hugs him, like they don't do. I think 2 reasons. I think, first of all, one of the reasons why the end fight is so short comparatively, is because the end of the movie is really Lamas's death.
Yeah,
right. We understand as an audience that he has to triumph over Gerard to power up and get his end freeze frame and all the rest of it. But really, if we've been invested in this whole thing, the true emotional end of the movie is Lamas saying, I just realized on my deathbed. What did he say? Did anyone remember or write down what he said?
I didn't write it down, but he says like winning doesn't mean revenge. It means you guys fill in the blank. It means
I don't know. I think it's honor over revenge or something. Yeah, more honor. We're going to have relentless honor.
But what's interesting though, let me ask you, I have a question for both of you, which is, everyone's saying, and Gerard is this machine. He'll kill you in the ring, and the other trainer says, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it." And of course, we know what happened in the past. Why does Lamas, do you think, agree to the neon graveyard fight? Now, my personal opinion is that it's a masochistic sense of like, I want you to beat me. I want you to almost kill me.
Yes.
Like a masochistic impulse.
Yeah, he
Well, I
wanted
think
this-
it's that, but I also think part of it is, and Kinmont says this at a certain point to Worth about seeing the like giddiness in Lamas again, and seeing like he feels younger now. He feels more like the,
Yeah.
braggadocio of youth, and that he can whip I think there's part of it. I don't discount what you're saying. I do think I think Lamas, from the moment he is not able to have sex with the prostitute for whatever reason.
Yeah, which is interesting that they did that, which they said he has like erectile dysfunction, which they kind of hint at. And she's like, "Oh, you're no champion," and she walks out. That very interesting. Most movies wouldn't go there, and I appreciated the movie for that.
Well, because it serves a few purposes. First of all, it says that he only has erectile function for Kathleen Kinmont and not for anybody else.
True. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Right. So it does say that. It also, the get out of jail free is, we can take Lamas right up to the line as storytellers of being almost about to sleep with a prostitute. And because he doesn't, and because we also give Lamas a weakness, in other words, he's not able to just become massively erect at the drop of a hat. It has to be with someone that he truly loves. That gives him an emotional weakness in a good way. And I don't mean weakness in a bad way.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
An emotional softness to him that we haven't seen before, and a physical softness. It's the softness of the penis metaphors the softness of Lamas's emotions. But we give him a little humanity, and I think by doing that, it means the audience doesn't hate it, because at this point the audience is kind of, Lamas has beaten up the audience a bit with what a bastard he's been.
Yeah, as we talked about. Yeah, and it's funny because I did write down when Kathleen Kinmont sees them training together, and she says like, "Oh, I haven't seen him like this in a long time. Like he's been reinvigorated."
Yeah, I think he's full of piss and vinegar. I think he wants to. I think he wants to take the crown back, and I think he thinks that Gerard is all, barking no bite.
But that's because of Danny Davis. Like you could almost say it's because of Danny Davis that he feels that way, and then gets himself into that terrible.
Oh, completely.
situation.
And I think there's a part of Worth that is doing what he's doing, and the reason why he says to Kathleen Kinmont, "I am absolutely fighting tomorrow. There's no way you can stop me," kind of thing.
Because maybe he feels guilty that.
Yes,
that
I think
Taylor went to
the whole end of this movie is we redeem everybody that needs redeeming. Like Worth gets redeemed and from his guilt, and Lamas gets redeemed from his quest or vengeance or whatever. He gets redeemed from his quest for death and violence.
The fact that this movie is working on all those levels sets it apart from just your stupid beat 'em up. There's so much to talk about here. I did write down redemption, revenge, renewal, reinvigoration, or the 4 R's.
Well, because what's interesting is it's a love triangle. It's a mother and father parallel.
Yeah.
It's a fish out of water with can't teach old dog new tricks story. It's a rocky underdog thing.
Right.
It's so many things.
Yeah.
But it pulls them all off. That's the reason why I'm saying this is not to be like, well, they shoot for the moon and only reach, Wyoming or whatever. No, I think in this one they shoot for the moon and they shoot past it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the synthesis of all those elements, mainly because of Stephen Smoke's screenplay, is successful in all that. And
Gonzalez's score. I mean,
Yes.
Gonzalez's score. And it's funny because there are some scores on PM Entertainment films where you watch them and you go, okay, I get it. They only had money for a keyboard and a drum machine or whatever, right? And that's fine, and it is what it is. But there are some scores, Steel Frontier I talk about all the time because it's just absolutely fantastic. But then this one, I would put like we've been saying this, me and Corey Dana, who's writing the book on PM, and wrote the book on Van Damme's director, Sheldon Lettich. Corey Danner and I talk about this all the time, but we want the soundtrack, the PM Entertainment soundtrack album.
I love that.
And
That
I would put...
Oh my God. As
Yeah.
a vinyl collector and CD collector, I would be so on board for that.
Wouldn't you? Wouldn't that be amazing? Like, just think of like Shotgun of Jones, Midnight Warrior. You know.
Oh yeah, those are two of our favorite songs, right, Ty?
Absolutely. Let's try. Wait, what was the second one?
The Shotgun of Jones.
What was the other one?
Midnight Warrior.
Midnight Warrior.
Oh, Warrior.
Yeah, it's by the same artist as well, who appears in one of the Chance series.
Is that is that Verouge? That's how you pronounce it?
He plays the Native American character in the Chance cop films
what's
with
that guy's
Lawrence
name?
Hilton Jacobs.
Oh God.
And he comes back. I think he's in the other two Chance movies as well.
I know who you're talking about. Oh God, his name's slipping my mind. But I know who you're talking about. And but that would be good. There is a CD of Steve McClintock songs, and he's sort of like the AIP equivalent. I mean, He did a lot of great songs for the Action International Pictures. And if you ever finish with your PM obsession, you might want to move on to AIP because they did some amazing work as well.
Crazy stuff there.
But yeah, so if they can make a Steve McClintock CD, they can definitely make a John Gonzalez CD or vinyl.
Yeah, I would want some Gonzalez on there. I'd want some Jim Halfpenny on there. There's lots of stuff, and you know, the more time I spend watching PM films, what I'm enjoying more than anything is that, you know, because I'm 65 movies in now, 66 movies out of whatever they've done, like 90 or whatever, 95 or whatever they ended up doing. The fact that I'm still being surprised, the fact that I'm still being overjoyed, the fact that I'm still being, you know, thoroughly entertained, like all of those things. Not that I don't expect to be, but you also expect to become a nerd a little bit to it and just sort of softened a little to it. So
but it's still a great feeling.
but it's fantastic. These movies are great.
You didn't expect to be headbutted in the crotch today.
No, I did like that. That was like, I understand that was meant to be like this will be like a funny ending move, like a beat 'em up on a computer thing or whatever. But to me, I was like, Jesus, like leave the poor bastard alone.
And just to go back to what you were saying before, there's a lot of great Vegas landmarks and cinematography once they get to Vegas. And I did want to mention, I don't know if this is burying the lead here, but Ty and I have both been to the Neon Graveyard.
Yes, we went there.
Fantastic. What was it like, guys?
It was actually really amazing. Very hot. Very amazing.
But Ty, you have a bit of an anecdote, a short one about this.
Well, we went to Neon Graveyard. So I asked the tour guide, do you know about Final Impact? They had a fight scene in the Neon Graveyard. He said, what? What's that?
And they didn't even know that they shot this movie there. The guy
really?
No, they had no idea.
Well, and
maybe PM Entertainment didn't tell them.
Maybe maybe not. But what's funny about this is how when Gerard says, like, okay, a fight, you and me at the Neon Graveyard, he just kind of says that almost like apropos of nothing,
right?
Which is very funny if you've actually been to the Neon Graveyard, because the Neon Graveyard is actually a museum. Yes. Like, it's basically a museum. So that would be like if someone's like this killer, brutal punch fighting guy said, you, me, at the Louvre.
Yeah, let's meet you at the Met. Yeah,
at the Met. It's picking a museum for a fight scene, which I thought is funny. But if anyone who ever goes to Vegas should definitely go to the Neon Museum because it is really cool.
Yeah.
And also, there's a lot of scenes in the Mirage where we stayed, and there's even a scene in early. When they first get to Vegas, where Lamas says to Danny Davis, the volcano at the Mirage is starting in 5 minutes, and he goes, it is, and then just to show kind of like his naivete, because, you know, people might not, you know, the Bellagio has the fountains, the Mirage has this volcano, which I saw and is really cool too, and it's very hot. You can feel the heat, and it's like this sort of show type thing they do outside of the Mirage, and then later on, they're training, and in the background, you can see the Mirage volcano. So it's almost like it goes from when he's kind of playing off his naivete to the point where he says, hit me, punch me, give me everything you got. And in that scene, you can see the Mirage volcano in the background.
Oh, I mean, the photography throughout the movie is fantastic, but I think Vegas has a special place in Joe and Rick's heart.
But it just reminds me of some of the Wings Hauser movies that
Living to Die.
Living Die. There's some great Vegas footage in that film. And one of my personal favorites, Dance or Die. That has some good Vegas stuff in it. So yeah.
Well, so Munchkin, who directed Dance or Die, is a professional gambler. He's from Vegas.
Oh, well, see, that would explain the Vegas connection. So, but yeah, there's a lot of great Vegas stuff. Just the way it's shot and locations are great. And I love that they used the neon graveyard, and that was just really cool. And also, and a little funny because he says, "I'm going to fight you," basically at the museum. Is kind of funny.
And another little tidbit about me. The first city or the first place I ever landed in America as an immigrant was Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. Oh. And I lived in Las Vegas for the first 18 months that I lived in America.
Oh, my goodness.
So you're just like Joseph Murray.
I am, yes. I am. I'm just not as impressive and
don't be
anywhere near as entrepreneurial or wonderful or any of those things.
Just since you have the Blu-ray in front of you,
yes,
I don't want to get too wonky about this, but what does it say the running time is on the Blu-ray? Because
now you're asking me something. I'm trying to read it in German as well.
I
don't think it has it on the back of the
okay.
It's full HD, DTS. The Blu-ray is 100 minutes. The DVD is 97 minutes.
Okay, that's interesting. The only reason why I ask is that I got a couple of different running times. They're very slight differences, but on the tape, on the VHS tape, it says 99 minutes. On the VHS box, it says 97 minutes. And then just from my own timing of it, I think it's like 98 pre-credits. So in case there's people out there that care about that or what things that might have been cut from the movie, I just wanted to see if the Blu-ray matches the VHS in terms of the running time.
More or less. I mean, 100 minutes, 99 minutes. Yeah, it's all I know is that what Claudio is working off is prints. So not only did PM films play on the big screen in other countries, right? So in Asia and Europe and other places, they were theatrical films. But also they always played all the film markets and film festivals. So they would play like the market at Cannes, and they would do the AFI and all that kind of stuff. So and around the world as well, they would do film festivals in Dubai and places as well. Like George Shamir, their overseas sales agent, would basically do all the traveling while they were making all the movies. And so there are prints out there. They don't know where the negatives are, but there are prints out there. So Claudio is working with the prints. Again, they don't know where the negatives are because when PM was sold, it was just sold wholesale, and Rick and Joseph left with nothing.
Well, that's unfortunately not uncommon. There's a lot of movies where the prints are basically they're unknown as to where they are, and discovering film prints is something that people are out there looking for, like Vinegar Syndrome and other people. They're working on film preservation as far as the actual prints of the movie. So yeah, sadly, that's not an uncommon story.
So the person who wrote Shotgun of Jones song and Midnight Warrior, and who was in he was in Shotgun, but he was also in the LA Heat, Angels of the City, LA Vice, and Chance run of John Chance films, which star and were also, I think, Angels of the City was directed by Lawrence Hilton Jacobs. And Angels of the City, what a phenomenal film. Absolutely fantastic. That'll be coming up soon on the PM Entertainment podcast, actually. We've got that planned. But he wrote the soundtrack to Midnight Warrior and Shotgun, and his name is Jasterio Coviare.
Coviare, yes. Thank you that would have driven me crazy. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. But Gonzalez does the score here. And how about that freeze frame fist pump,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
over the closing credits, the saxophone just comes wailing in and does not quit.
Can't get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, it's great. And it's almost would have been weird if they didn't do a freeze frame. It's like, a freeze frame. It's like if it would have been totally satisfying if there wasn't a freeze frame. It's like,
Right.
that's made for a freeze frame.
Almost like when Michael Worth, at the end of his second fight with Gary Daniels, when he gets taught the lesson, and he goes up to Lorenzo Lamas and he goes, "So when do we start then?" And Lorenzo goes, "We already have."
Yeah, we already have.
If
Yeah.
he hadn't have said, "We already have," you would have been so disappointed.
Yeah,
like it's
true.
the only answer you want as an action fan watching the movie.
Absolutely. And that's what's good about this movie, if we're going to put a capper on things, is that it delivers what you want. It hits those sweet spots, you know? Yeah.
Tyler, as we're wrapping it up then, favorite scenes, favorite moments, favorite lines, anything jumping out to you?
Yeah, Neon Graveyard, favorite scene, definitely, because we've been there.
And you finally get kind of the Lorenzo, because you get Lorenzo fighting with Worth, and then you get training with Worth, and then you get Lorenzo fighting with Gerard. So you kind of get the Lamas fights you want in the movie.
That's what I wanted, and it delivered.
Yeah.
And of course, the oily women in the beginning, of course.
Right.
Boy. Everyone's favorite scene in the movie.
Right in the start.
Joseph, when this movie came out, probably said to Rick, "If only we had focused more on the oily women, we might have had a hit."
Well, yeah. So, I guess if I'm getting that same question, then
yes, favorite scene. Sorry, yes.
I know. It's hard to pick just one, but
You don't. I mean, yeah, I'm happy to have more than one.
I mean, all I would say is like the scenes with the interesting side characters. Like I said, the Gerard's coach / corner man and the wacky waiter, and I appreciate that the movie went there, as I was saying, and the fights are pretty bone crunching, and you have the themes of honor and redemption and drama and kind of the whole package. It just kind of it really came together, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, it was better on rewatch 16 years later.
Oh, definitely better. It makes me want to go back and rewrite the whole review, but yeah, I mean, I would suggest it to people, even people that aren't familiar with PM. I'd say if you've never seen a PM movie or only a few, this is a great one to start with.
Yeah, so this goes definitely into the list of movies to show a PM newbie.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
I would say this one. I would say Last Man Standing.
Oh, sure.
And I would say Steel Frontier. I think you could send now Steel Frontier. You would at least have to know the genre, I guess. You would at least have to know the sort of post-apocalyptic Mad Max, Italian, Attack the Bronx or whatever, those kind of things, or Escape the Bronx or whatever, those kind of movies. You have to at least know that, but I still think you could probably show people Steel Frontier and they'd get the idea. It's a Western.
Well, and I agree because for whatever reason that has like definitely more of a professional, almost mainstream look to it.
Right. That's what I mean. This one, Steel Frontier and Last Man Standing, I think you could show it in a movie theater and people would be like, where's this movie been all my life? I think people would watch it and be like, how do we not know about this?
And Steel Frontier has Chicken Boy.
The Chicken Boy's the best.
Yeah. So, well, that is Brian Huckabee.
Brian Huckabee, yes.
And he
commented, if you read our
Pop
review.
Culture Cafe. Follow him on YouTube and Instagram for movie reviews, physical media collections.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, great guy. Yeah, Brian. Oh, he's sweetest, the best. I agree with everyone. I think this is, as I said, I'm not a big fight film guy, so this has gone right into my top 3 of all-time fight films. I absolutely loved it. It's certainly shooting into my top 10, top 15 of PM Entertainment films. I don't know. I haven't gone back to my list yet or rated this movie or anything yet, but I've got to imagine it's going to fall somewhere in the top 10, top 12 of my PM Entertainment films because I absolutely loved it. This was one of those where I was like, Oh, I had no idea this movie was still out there waiting for me. It was such a lovely surprise.
Well, a great feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. Ty, any
yes.
ratings or anything that you want? Any final words?
Ratings. No,
Any
nothing
ratings?
Nothing this time. Well, I'm happy you enjoyed it. You know, CIA 1 and 2. Have you done those yet?
We haven't done those yet. No.
Okay.
So that's some more Lamas greatness waiting for you.
We had O.J. Simpson in the first one.
Yeah, it is true.
Yeah, I've watched both of them. And my favorite thing is it says something. There's a great quote on the poster for one of them that says Kathleen Kinmont is the next female Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I'm like, who's the other female Arnold Schwarzenegger? Because if you say the words, she's the new one, there must have been one.
Who's the first one?
Who's the first one? What they mean is she's the new Arnold Schwarzenegger, but she's female, right? That's what they mean.
Right.
Maybe they're talking about Mimi Lesios, but they need to be more specific. I agree.
Yes, maybe they're a big Lesios fan.
There's a very small, like, kind of asterisk. It's like, we mean Mimi Lesios. It's like,
we mean Cynthia Rothrock.
Rothrock.
Yeah. That could be a somewhat of a reference to
Karen Shepard.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
there's a few out there, but for her to be like the new female Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm like, was there other female Arnold
well, and plus that's not much of a comment on her femininity. I mean,
but she is badass in part 2. So that little fight scene she has in the grocery store at the beginning is great.
Oh no, and in her action scenes, she can really fight. She has really good physicality, and that should have been shown off a bit more, not just in PM, but just in general.
And of course, Lamas directed part 2. So
interesting.
All good. Well, Brett, Ty, thanks ever so much for joining us on this. I told you we'd get to the nitty and the gritty.
And you were not lying.
Final Impact film. I had to do this justice because I had to do this relentless justice, as it turned out, because I loved it so much and it was such a wonderful surprise. And I'm glad we got to give everyone their props because they all deserve it.
Yes. And I'm glad we could have been, and we're here for this episode. So thanks for having us.
We will have you back. Everyone go listen to their show. Everyone read their blog. And all the best, fellas.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are now leaving the PM Entertainment Podcast.